All right, welcome everyone. I call to order the open session of the October 11th, 2022 regular meeting of the City Council at 6:18 p.m. Will Jim Fasola please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, sir. Madam City Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Armato,
Here.
Councilmember Campbell,
Here.
Councilmember Massey,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson,
Here.
Mayor DeToy.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, could you please provide a closed session report?
Certainly, Mayor. I'd like to report that City Council convened its closed session at 5 o'clock this evening, immediately following the 4 p.m. special meeting at which the City Council interviewed candidates for the Public Works Commission. Nothing was added to the agenda of the closed session, and there were no reportable actions taken in closed session this afternoon. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. So it brings us to announcements. Do any of my colleagues have any announcements? Seeing none. Tomorrow is the Beach Cities Health District Walk and Roll to School Day. We're excited to join Hermosa View, Vista, and Valley Schools in this event. It encourages all Hermosa Beach students, families, and staff to walk and roll to school tomorrow. I know me personally, I'll be right at the 9/11 Memorial, be walking up to Hermosa Vista, so hope to see you there. Reminder to join me this Saturday, October 15th, 9 a.m. at Moondust Parquet, which is at 1014 2nd Street, to help spruce up the walls and basketball court with a fresh coat of paint. We'll also be discussing the park's master plan, and city staff will be on site to help answer any questions. You can sign up at the city calendar of events page or to show up the day of event. All are welcome. Break free from plastic celebration and reception. We'll be hosting the event at the Pier on Sunday, October 23rd at 2 p.m. with a reception to follow at Vista. We are bringing together leaders and activists to celebrate the sweeping action to reduce single-use plastic pollution with the enactment of SB 54, the Plastic Pollution Producer Responsibility Act. This bill requires significant reductions in single-use plastic foodware and packaging. And then this says lastly, but I don't have one more. I'm going to go off script here. Lastly, please join me on Thursday, October 27th at 5:30 p.m. for my State of the City address. It will be held at the lifeguard headquarters next to the pier. A reception will be held afterwards at the lighthouse. More information will be available in the next few days, so stay tuned. And then finally, lastly, let's go Dodgers. Let's go Kings. And then we got some more coming up, some good announcements. So it brings to approval of the agenda. Anyone make a motion to approve the agenda or make any modifications?
Mayor, if I may, staff recommends that City Council amend the order of the agenda by moving the Beach Cities Health District presentation to be heard first and amending the proclamation to read the title Proclamation Declaring October 2022 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and October 13, 2022 as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day.
So with staff's recommendation,
Well, we have a resident waiting. I mean, I don't, do we want to do this? Switch the order with the resident waiting or?
It's up to you. It's just, that's the way it was originally intended to be.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
would anyone like to switch those or just accept it as is?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we approve tonight's agenda with the recommendation from City Clerk.
Right.
I'll
There's
second.
Second, motion from Councilwoman Councilwoman Campbell, second from Councilwoman Campbell. Clarification on the motion? Are you good? Armato, what did I say? Campbell and Campbell?
Yes.
Campbell and Campbell show. All right, Campbell and Armato. Any questions? Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Armato,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Massey,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson,
Aye.
Mayor Detoy.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have proclamation presentation. The first being the presentation from Beach Cities Health District on All Cove Beach Cities.
All right. Good evening to the council. Allie Stewart, Chief Partnership Development Officer at Beach Cities Health District, and I'm joined by Camille from our Youth Advisory Group. Camille, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, hello, I'm Camille, and I'm actually currently a senior at Mira Costa High School. But yes, I'm also a member of the Youth Advisory Council for Alcove.
Welcome,
Great.
both of you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for this opportunity. And we'll be brief so you can get to the remainder of your agenda and the proclamation. So thank you for the opportunity for us to share an exciting update on All Cove Beach Cities coming soon to the South Bay. This is a project that we've been talking about for several years now with lots of support from the city and our school partners, as well as the state and the federal government to bring this right here to the beach cities. So we're going to give a brief overview, and then we'll have slides that we can share after and answer any questions as well. So we've been here before many times to talk about health priorities. So specifically, we're going to focus on mental health tonight and the mental health of young people ages 12 to 25. So with All Cove, it really is a dedicated space for young people in this age range to access services and programs on their own terms. It really is designed to be youth-led, and that's why Camille will share a little bit about her experience with her peer advisors that they've been able to advise us throughout the planning process to bring All Cove to the beach cities. So with All Cove, similarly to what we were able to do to take a more regional approach through COVID, we work with the larger South Bay area and the school districts to provide vaccines for school staff first and then later students. We're also taking a more regional approach with All Cove Beach Cities, which will allow residents from the greater South Bay, from all of Service Planning Area 8, as the LA County Department of Public Health organizes the regions throughout the county. Any young person from this area would be able to come to Redondo Beach to access services through All Cove Beach Cities. So excited to have it right here in the heart of the beach cities to make it accessible for all of our young people, not only students in our local schools, but also as they transition to young adulthood. So another exciting opportunity is to work more closely with our business community, since we know many of these young people who might be working after high school might need some of these supportive services, and they would have a safe place that's inclusive for them to be able to do that. So when we look at the mental health crisis, and I know we've talked often about the needs were there before COVID, and they've really been exacerbated for our young people since then. There really is this opportunity to be in this prevention and early intervention space with mental health if we're able to address it early on. So when you look at really the demands of the healthcare system, it really peaks for mental illness in young people, kind of right in this age range. And so the team from Stanford, as they were looking at models from all over the world to really address how do we really make an impact on the mental health of young people, they found that this having an opportunity to do it earlier was really going to have better outcomes for not only the health and well-being and long-term health status of the young person, but really to reduce the system costs as well. So really creating that opportunity to address early intervention in the space so we can make sure that number, that 79% of those with a mental health concern not accessing care are able to do that sooner. So when we look at our continuum, we have to thank our Hermosa Beach City School District. They're doing great work to build social emotional skills, resilience. Mayor Detoy, thank you for the shout out about Walk to School Day tomorrow. That's another opportunity to build community, build connections, and create this really strong foundation of well-being. So All Cove is intended to complement those efforts happening in our local school districts, and also complement the work happening through a lot of our private practice providers. We're lucky to have resources in the beach cities, and so working collaboratively with all of those groups who are also serving this population to really create this continuum for young people. I think another important thing on this slide is really around easy and affordable access. So any young person who walks in this space can access services regardless of their ability to pay. So instead of the typical healthcare appointment where you walk in and the first thing they ask is for your insurance card or your method of payment, that's not going to be the first interaction that a young person would have when they walk into this space. They'd be greeted by someone closer to their own age, and it would be more of, what do you need? How can we help you? Instead of, how are you going to be able to pay for these services? So when we look across the continuum, really focusing on the left side there, prevention, early intervention, a lot of outreach, case management, community engagement, but really making sure that if the needs are more intense, and we have heard that in the one other location in the state of California that's currently operating an Alcove Center up in Palo Alto, they have seen some more severe needs. And so if someone does walk in presenting with a more significant health need, that we'd be able to connect them to those resources and services. So these are what they call the 6 core service streams, also supported by some overall life skills and wellness services. And I'm going to go through these really quickly, but I'll also share the slides after the presentation to review in more detail. So these are some of the types of mental health services that a young person could access in a space: individual counseling, group counseling, opportunities for young people to connect with one another to get the support that they need. For physical health services, while not intended to be the physical health home for a young person, if they do come in and are expressing some other physical health concern alongside perhaps a mental health concern, maybe they're saying they're always getting a headache before a big exam, or they have what they feel like is heart palpitations when they get really nervous, they could also walk down the hall and see a physician or a nurse in the same space. When we look at substance use prevention services, again, working with our community partners to be in the prevention and intervention space. I wanted to call out specifically training around Narcan and naloxone. I know that's been a priority topic for the city and for Chief LeBaron too, as we work alongside our agencies to do more community education around fentanyl and the availability in our community. And so we know that's a priority for us, and we're looking forward to working with county agencies as well as local agencies to build more capacity in the community for some of these prevention efforts. When we look at the proposed providers, so in addition to Beach City staff, who are both clinical and non-clinical, some peer support specialists, these are some of the community partners that will be bringing in to the space to offer this one-stop shop for young people to access services. So these are a lot of our partners. They're already working in our schools. Happy to see Indivisible Arts, who's doing a lot of great things in Hermosa Beach around social emotional health and well-being, and others who have really helped to support mental health, physical health, substance use prevention, as well as these wellness services in our community. So briefly, I had touched on some of these and what makes Alcove unique. It really is this youth-centered design, and I'm going to let Camille share a little bit of her experiences in just a moment, but it really is designed to make it accessible for a young person to access these services. So when they do decide it's time to ask for help, they're going to get the help that they need from the very beginning. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Camille to just share a little bit about how she's been able to work alongside some of her peers to bring Alcove Beach Cities to life.
Yeah. So one of the important things of Alcove, I think, really is that it is a group that's also been really designed by teens for teens. So you have opportunities for like advocacy and outreach, and at the same time also making a lot of decisions on the space by itself. So the format and the services that we want to see, and really just how teens would react to them. So I think that's something that's really important about Alcove, is really the fact that it has been developed a lot by youth in the community for youth in the community, and really getting that suggestion from teens.
And this is Camille alongside her peer advisors. And so these are young people from the South Bay, so Hermosa, Manhattan, Redondo, Torrance residents that are really co-creating this space with us. And so they'll be involved in the next couple months as we get ready to open the doors, do a ribbon cutting next week, and then also open for services as of November 1st. So as of that date, we'll be ready to create connections for young people so they can get the help and support that they need. So here's a sneak preview of the space, some renderings, early renderings. Looks different than a typical doctor's office. A young person can walk in access intake either through a peer support specialist or on an iPad, so making the space integrated with technology. Currently, in a temporary location on the 4th floor of our existing Beach Cities Health District building on Prospect Avenue, with eventual plans to have a permanent home in our Healthy Living campus. I have a few slides on that I'll share as well. This is the Cove. This is the hub in the living room where young people can come to just to be. They can hang out with peers, they can do homework. There's lots of different codes and opportunities for a young person to access the space on their own terms. Supporting the Cove and kind of the common area, there are 13 chat rooms that the youth advisory members had a chance to name. And those are where the clinical and some of the supportive services will take place. And the schedule will be constantly rotating. Really another opportunity to make sure services are destigmatized is to ensure that the rooms are constantly rotating. So it's not always one room is where you go see the therapist, or one room is if you're talking to someone about substance use prevention. It is kind of that anonymous approach to the physical design of the space. So when you look at funding, this was made possible through a grant from the Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission. That's the big California state fund that supports a lot of the mental health efforts, homelessness prevention efforts in the communities. We also had the opportunity to receive $1 million of community project funding from Congress that we were cited on the facility design side. And then I think when we look ahead to the long term, how do you pay for this? How do you really make sure that these services are accessible and cost is not a barrier? And so beyond this initial pilot period, how do we work with the healthcare system and with private payers, government reimbursement options, Medi-Cal, et cetera, to really make these early intervention services accessible? We know that access can really be a barrier, especially if a young person is needing to see a therapist on a regular basis and don't have the option to private pay. So really, how do we work at the system level to make sure these services are billable through insurance for one, and then bringing more into the support that would not be the barrier to a young person getting. So very briefly, I know we've discussed the Healthy Living Campus. So Alcove Beach Cities will be an anchor component of the future campus. So this is designed to really be a center for all ages. So supports and activities for young people, families to gather in this common space, as well as older adults. So we've been through several iterations of a planning process dating back to 2017, reducing the number of residential care for the elderly units from 420 down to 217, smaller building size, as well as less construction. And then separated it out into 2 phases. So we now have a board approved master plan. In phase 1 of that will be Alcove, as well as some of the other services that you see listed here. PACE is the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly, very similar to the one-stop shop concept of Alcove Beach Cities. It's something similar for older adults to be able to come and get the care and services that they need co-located in one space. And Beach Cities has more than 450 care management clients currently on our caseload that they would be able to access some of these services too. And we're talking about older adults that might be frail or need extra support. So transporting them to and from the location to be able to access that service all under one roof. So I had mentioned opening fall 2022. So as of November 1, we'll be opening the doors for services. Our hours to start, again, really the youth advisors gave us feedback on this. We'll be open from 1 to 7 on Tuesdays through Fridays, and then on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. to make sure that we're available for young people after school, or those who might be working during the week and not able to access the services except for on the weekends. And Mayor Dito already did this plug, so thank you. Looking forward to seeing some of you out there in the morning for a walk and roll to school day. So that is all we have, and we would be happy to answer any questions. I do want to thank Councilmember Armato, who's been on our steering committee since the very beginning of this planning process, as well as Chief LeBaron, to really guide us to this place. So thank you for your leadership to make this happen.
Well, thank you, Ali and Camille, for joining us this evening and giving us all this information. Look to my colleagues for any questions. Yes, Councilmember Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ally and Camille, thanks so much for the presentation. How will kids get to and from Alcove? It reflects the whole SPA 8 area, which is fairly distant. And so I was just wondering, in terms of putting information out there, like how do kids from each corner of the area that's served by Alcove manage to make it to the facility?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think we're working on an active transportation plan. We know that that distance can sometimes be a barrier. So we're also looking at telehealth opportunities. So that might be for either the young person or the provider. Maybe the provider is in Alcove and the young person is where they are. We often know that sometimes the home environment can be the cause of stress. So maybe that's the reverse, that the young person is coming to Alcove and having a telehealth visit with the provider. We're also looking at some of the voucher programs that we have used for older adults to access health services with rideshare services. So that's something that we're looking at too, to make sure that getting to the space is not the barrier. And then we also are looking at opportunities with community and youth volunteers to do outreach into some of the greater South Bay, so they know the services are available and how they can get it.
Okay, great. And then in terms of outreach, how are you getting the word out to kids? Are you advertising in the student newspapers at all the high schools in the area? What are you doing? I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to be open from November 1st until January 28th, in kind of a soft opening period as we get all the clinical services up and running. And then we're planning a big community celebration. You're all invited on January 28th, that we're going to do a lot more promotion to young people. So Camille and her colleagues on the youth advisory are going to be the ones who tell us where we need to do outreach, because we have some ideas. But we told them, and they're unfortunately not reading the Easy Reader on a weekly basis. So looking at other outreach opportunities. But yeah, I think looking in the school setting through our school partners, some social media advertising through there. And then I think too, with the business community, making some of that collateral and materials that, hey, this resource is out here. And we're open to ideas. So if anyone has suggestions on groups that would be particularly meaningful to do outreach to, especially for this target age range. I think the peer-to-peer promotion is probably going to be the most effective too. So Camille has colleagues on the Alcove Youth Advisory Group, and then we have a larger Beach Cities Youth Advisory Council of about 50 to 60 young people. And so I think we're hoping that word of mouth. And Camille, I don't know if you want to weigh in. I know we've talked a little bit about community outreach.
Yes, I think one thing we've recently discussed a lot is social media. A lot of people, especially teens, that's one of our ways we get most of our information. And additionally, I know also it was a few weeks ago, some members of the Youth Advisory Council also went to the Redondo Beach football game and also shared some information about Alcove that way too. So I think really that side of youth, really advocating also about BCHD and the Alcove group specifically to other youth would be an extremely important part of sharing that communication aspect, and as well just making sure it's targeted towards youth. Like, very true. I don't usually read the Easy Reader or the newspaper, but I do check social media more often. So I think that's really a great way to get in contact with teens, is to really go through the channels that they use to get most of their information.
That all sounds good. I would also, just consider the print media that on campuses that kids watch. It may not be the student newspaper, but it may be just the bulletin board at the office, or the bulletin board in the classrooms, or just a posting near the door of each classroom, because there's any number of ways kids in an idle moment will just be scanning around for information about current events or new activities or new opportunities, especially someone who's you're targeting with Alcove, somebody who's sort of searching around for a resource or a way to find out more about an issue that's bubbling up and that they want help with. There's a number of different ways to do it, but I think reaching the kids on social media where they are, also reaching them at their schools and every place that we know they are, is probably going to be an effective way, I would think, to just blanket the universe of potential folks that you can help with the service. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well, seeing no other questions, I just want to thank you both one more time. Thank you, Ally. Thank you, Camille. We look forward to the grand opening.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk, what's next?
Proclamation declaring October 2022 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and October 13, 2022 as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day.
Wonderful. And I'll invite Dana Richards to the podium and also Katie Adams on screen. And Dana, I think you're going to share a few words about Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Katie's also going to talk about the metastatic breast cancer as well. Awareness
I'm
Day.
very excited. Thank you for having me. I'm a 12-year breast cancer survivor, so it's really important this month that we recognize not only the survivors, but the women that are and men, we should say, that are going through it. It's 1 in 8 women that are diagnosed over the course of their lifetime at this point, which means currently 42,000 women succumb to it every year. So until we find a cure, let's keep the lights going pink. And I think it's a beautiful symbol. And I think the Hermosa Pier just it's radiating light, and to all the ones who have succumbed, they see it from outer space, right? And then all the women who are going through it, and anyone who's been touched by it, a loved one, a family member, everyone knows someone, right? A colleague, a friend. So yeah, it's with a gratitude for every breath. And I'm really thankful to Hermosa and to Jesse. And yeah, it's a good day. It's a good day to be a 12-year survivor. So thank you for that. And if anyone wants any of these, obviously I don't have enough. I have child size for me, and then I also have adult size for anyone else. But yeah, thank you so much.
We'll come down for a photo anyway. So, all right. And then your colleague, Dana or Katie Adams, is going to join us via Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me? I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I just want to thank you guys for recognizing October 13th as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. This is actually the second year in a row that we have had a proclamation that Hermosa Beach is recognizing October 13th. Oh, okay, here I am. And just wanted to speak a little bit about stage 4 or metastatic breast cancer. So stage 4 is actually when the cancer has left the breast and it has gone through other parts of the body, and unfortunately there is no cure at that point. And so although all of breast cancer awareness and research is vitally important, in the month of October, it's especially important for the women and men who are fighting metastatic disease to be recognized on a special day for their unique fight that is a lifelong battle. So a little bit about the Light Up MBC campaign is that on October 13th, over 200 iconic landmarks, including the Hermosa Beach Pier Plaza, will illuminate in green, teal, and pink for Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. So the Light Up MBC campaign shines a light on the importance of critical funding for metastatic breast cancer research so that we can have more options for patients and turn this deadly disease into a chronic one. So as a proud Hermosa Beach resident and mother and friends of a lot of people with this fight, I thank you so much for declaring this day Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day. And please tune in to the Light Up MBC live show that'll be taking place in New York on the Facebook channel and also I think on YouTube at Light Up MBC. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you both for your advocacy, and I'll come down and present a certificate, and then all my colleagues will join me for a little photo. Whereas October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and during this time, we rededicate ourselves to supporting patients and their families, boosting access to care, and raising awareness about life-saving importance of early screening. And whereas breast cancer is the most common type of cancer among women in the world, the second leading cause of cancer deaths among women in the United States, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed in their lifetimes, including the expected 290,000 just this year. And whereas the pink ribbon represents the courage to fight breast cancer, hope for the future, and the charitable goodness of people and businesses who publicly support the breast cancer movement. And whereas metastatic breast cancer occurs when the breast cancer spreads to other parts of the body, including the bones, lungs, liver, and brain. And whereas there's a national hashtag Light Up MBC campaign on October 13th every year to illuminate landmarks in the metastatic colors of teal, pink, and green throughout the world, bringing awareness to the disease and to honor the daily number of lives lost to MBC. And whereas we honor all those who have lost to this terrible disease and celebrate the courageous survivors and advocates fighting to beat it, along with loved ones and medical providers who have their back every day. Now, therefore, I'm Michael Tatoy, Mayor of the City of Hermosa Beach, do hereby proclaim October 2022 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and October 13th, 2022 as Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day in the City of Hermosa Beach. The city is proud to join the fight to end cancer by lighting up Pier Plaza in pink for the month of October and lighting it up in teal, pink, and green for October 13th. I encourage all citizens, private businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other interested groups to join in activities that will increase awareness of what Americans can do to prevent and control breast cancer and to pay tribute to those who have lost their lives to this disease. Dated October 11th, 2022. It's even in pink, and it surprises us all the time. I'll get my colleagues down here and we'll get Katie in the background as well. And actually, I'm growing out a mustache because we are doing a Stashtober that benefits breast cancer awareness where I work. So there's reason behind it.
You should stop.
Actually, I'll get two little. My niece is the count.
I'm like, I'm not in town. Here, and then I'm gonna give you guys somebody a flyer because this is on. Thank you.
I'll just announce this really quick. Pinktober Power Flow Sunday, October 16th at 10:15 a.m. 14th Street on the Sand. It's a partnership with Soho Yoga. Little yoga session on the beach there.
I think our mayor should be there.
And
I'm working that day.
Oh.
you register at sohoyoga.com.
Sohoyoga.com. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We're dropping. And we're pink. Well, thank you both, as I said, for your advocacy, and we're happy to partner and just do our little part of lighting up our Pier Plaza to support both great causes. So thank you both.
Thank you so much.
And my colleagues have anything to add to that? All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Madam City Clerk, what's next?
Next, we have item 8, City Manager Report.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council, I wanted to provide the following update from the city manager's office. We wanted to start with an update on the park restroom project. As you know, this contractor did not complete construction of the park restrooms by the deadline required by the contract and is no longer proceeding with the work. Our city staff is working closely with the surety company, which posted the performance bond for the project that guarantees satisfactory completion. The next steps involve determining the final scope of work remaining to complete the project and the process for retaining a new contractor. We will continue to provide updates as soon as more information is available. Moving on to other updates and an upcoming opportunity for the artistic members of our community, we want to share that we have launched the 13th annual parking permit art contest. Hermosa Beach residents have expressed their love for our city through their art by submitting an entry by October 31st. The winning entry will be proudly displayed on the city's parking permits next year. There is no fee to enter, but the design competition is limited to one entry per resident. Please visit the city's website for more information. Turning now to our upcoming elections, by now you may have already received your vote by mail ballot for the November 8th general municipal election. If not, your vote by mail ballots should be arriving shortly. All registered voters in Long Beach, in California, will be receiving vote by mail ballots. All vote by mail ballots must be postmarked by Election Day, which is November 8th, and must be received no later than November 15th to be counted. But you can still vote in person at the Hermosa Beach Kiwanis Club at 2515 Valley Drive. Early voting will begin Saturday, October 29th, and voting will continue through Election Day, November 8th. To find other conveniently located vote centers, please visit locator.lavote.gov. On the November ballot, Hermosa Beach voters will be asked to vote on 4 municipal measures and to select 3 city council members, along with deciding other state and county measures and candidates. We have additional information about voting, voter registration, city council elections, and municipal ballot measures on the city's website. The Hermosa Beach municipal ballot measures include Measure B, a proposed 3/4 cent sales tax that the city council voted unanimously to place on the November 8th ballot. If enacted, funding generated by Measure B could help maintain priorities the public identified in a recent community survey, including services provided by public safety and public works. Measure M, a cannabis industry sponsored initiative. If enacted, Measure M would allow cannabis retail storefronts to locate and open within Hermosa Beach's city limits, where they are currently prohibited. The City Council and Cannabis Advisory Group both voted unanimously to oppose Measure M. Measure T, a cannabis business tax that the Hermosa Beach City Council, that the Hermosa Beach City Council unanimously voted to place on the November 8th ballot. If enacted, Measure T would require cannabis retailers to contribute to city services through a business tax, just like any other business does. Measure U, another proposal the City Council voted unanimously to place on the November 8th ballot, would repeal a 1960 civil service ordinance. If enacted, the city would be able to adopt new personnel civil service rules to meet the demands of changing laws, times, and circumstances. We thank you for participating in our general municipal election. Please feel free to visit or contact the city clerk's office with any questions regarding the election process. I'd like to also mention at this time, we have an update from Jim Fasola. I'd like to invite Mr. Fasola to provide his update as the city's delegate to the Los Angeles County Vector Control and Vector-Borne Disease Control District Board of Trustees. Mr. Fasola's last update to council was on March 22nd, 2022, and we appreciate that he's able to attend in person this evening to provide us another update. Welcome, Jim.
Oh, thank you, City Manager and Council. You know, I didn't realize I'd already given a report this year, so in a way, there's not a lot to say, but I'll just start by saying what LA County West Vector Control District is basically works on controlling vector-borne diseases, which are usually insect-borne diseases, and which in Los Angeles County is basically ticks and mosquitoes. There's a few different, we're LA County West, which is the west part of the greater Los Angeles area. So everything kind of along the ocean from Malibu down to San Pedro. There's a couple other districts. There's greater Los Angeles district. There's one, I forget, the one on the east, the Inland Empire is called, and I think Long Beach has its own district. So that's why we're LA County West. As a member of the Board of Trustees, every city in the district has one member on the Board of Trustees. There's about 20 of us. We help govern we govern the district by establishing policy and making budget decisions. Right now, the district is in good financial health. The district is supported by a parcel tax, which has gone from about almost $11 2 years ago it's going up to $14.66. That's a 18% increase per year the last couple of years. Part of that is inflation, part of it is facility upgrades, and part of it is a lot of retirements that they got during COVID time. Every time somebody retires, there's, I guess, a cost involved with that, and you probably know more about that than me. But right now the budget is about $12 million a year. So that's, I think we have about 3 or 4 million people in the district, so that's about $3 or $4 per person, I think it comes out to. And then just on a health issue, 2022 has been an average year for mosquitoes. There's been a little West Nile virus found in LA, but only in birds. No human cases this year, which is good. But so something I didn't know about, West Nile virus is really the biggest disease that mosquitoes carry, or that we have in west side of LA. And they find these dead birds. Whenever there's a dead bird, they call, if somebody calls, someone from Vector will come pick it up and they'll test it, see how that bird died. So they find maybe 20 or 30, they found maybe 20 or 30 birds this year. But that probably means that, I don't know, 20,000 birds have died of West Nile virus. But people don't get it so often, because if you get bit by a mosquito that carries it, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get West Nile virus. It's only a small percentage of people that get the disease, because it's like anything else, you can fight it off. You might not know you ever got it, or you might not get it. But all in all, it's been a pretty typical year, and everything is rolling along smoothly. I highly encourage our residents to call Vector if they have mosquitoes, any mosquitoes at all. The more calls that come in, the better. The more information we have about how mosquitoes are breeding in our area, and where they are, and control them just as a nuisance, so to kill them off before they bite more people. And the phone number is 310-915-7370. And rather than calling private exterminators or anything, because people don't know that there's a free service available, I really encourage people to call whenever they get a bite. Vector will always come out within a day or two, and they will track down where the mosquitoes are breeding, and they find them. I won't say every time, but every time I know, they've been able to find a storm drain, or a box drain, or a sump, or those are the main sources, but they find them, and they will kill them off, and so it's a good thing to call. The other half of my work has been involved in preventing mosquitoes in Hermosa Beach, and that is kind of, I feel like Sisyphus, the one that rolls that boulder up the hill, because it is. I've been a trustee for almost 4 years now, and things are finally happening. And so I'll just tell you, I've been working with Joe San Clemente, who is he is a good guy and he's very, he wants to know the facts. And I said, this is what I think the issue is, and this is what we need to do. He said, okay, well, let's look at the data and let's see what the problem is. And you know, that's good. That's what I expect an engineer or a director of public works to be doing, not to say, oh yeah, okay, I hear you, let's just do it. He says he wants to know what is the problem? Do we have a problem, and what is the source of the problem? So so this is sort of extracurricular out of what a normal trustee would be doing, but I do have the support of a vector of the executive director. He says, hey, this is great if you can do this. We're very supportive of it because it means less work for us and less mosquitoes in the future for you. And so so they support this, I'll call it a mission. So what Joe wanted, what I asked her, I said, well, let's see what can we get, what the mosquito problems are. Can we find out where they've really been? And sure enough, Vector has gone, they've gone through the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, and they said, okay, here's 26 calls we've gotten, and these are the addresses where we found mosquitoes breeding, and this is where we found them. We found them in a sump or a box drain or a storm drain, or maybe a fountain, or maybe a puddle of water. Those are pretty rare, but they find that too. And so I forwarded that report or summary to Ann Yang, to the city clerk, and it should have gone to all of you by now, and to Suja and to Joe San Clemente. So that's maybe a first step. And now we have the data, and we can move on from there. And I think I've said enough about this at other council meetings, but I'd answer any questions you have. Or none.
Do you want to go to questions with Jim since he's up here right now? Is that good? All right. Well, Jim, thank you for your work and your passion for this. It's great to hear all the work you're doing, and the community thanks you. So I'll kick it over to Councilmember Massey or Campbell.
All right. Thank you, Jim, for looking after this issue. I know in certain circumstances, it could become a pretty big topic. I'm glad to hear, it's more like a comment. I'm glad to hear that it was a normal year, because with what has seemed like more extreme humidity, at least to people I talked to in my own experience, might have expected that would have gone up, and maybe it's just lagging, but good to hear that we're in a steady state, and I appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Massey.
Jim, as always, thank you for the effort. I know you're no doubt busy as a one-armed paper hanger with your architecture firm and everything else, and volunteering for this job and bringing this back to us is all very helpful. I can tell you that the last time you came to us and you told us how we have a new breed of mosquitoes in West LA for the first time, and they can breed in water that's as small as the water that can fit in a bottle cap, that, you know, my daughter's seashell collection that goes around the planter, I always make sure that I turn them over so that if it rains, the water doesn't sit in the seashell and all that stuff. So the information is very helpful. I want to talk a little bit about the Sisyphean task of looking at the sumps and box drains, because you've talked about it repeatedly. I looked at the pictures of the reports of mosquitoes that vector control had gone out and abated. And it was clear to me, consistent with what you've told us, that those mosquitoes were breeding in these little drains or these box sumps or whatever the case may be. The question I have for you is, my understanding of our requirements for retaining rainfall or stormwater on a property comes out of the low impact development standards, which, as I understand it, are promulgated by the county or the state and come to us. And I'm not sure if the standing water where the mosquitoes are breeding in these sumps or drains is a result of poor design of the equipment or poor installation, poor design of the actual property specific implementation of it. But I wanted to sort of explore that because we're a relatively small city and we're not the ones who promulgate the standards and if it's a problem that is broader than just us, is, for example, the LA County West Vector Control Board in touch with whoever it is who promulgates the low impact development standards to give input about how, hey, some of these standards are resulting in underground standing water, which is breeding ground for mosquitoes, and they're exacerbating the problem. So is there a way to redesign the equipment that's installed, or to redesign these systems that retain water themselves? I don't know. I just wanted to explore that topic with you because I know that this has been something you've raised to us many, many times. And I can, hear the frustration, which, you hide very well. But it's there. And if it's a problem, as is shown in the reports of the mosquitoes that Vector Control went out and abated in our city, I just want to make sure the right people are talking to each other to see if we can solve it. And I'm not sure if the city is sort of a link in that chain, so to speak.
Well, okay, well, now we're getting into it and how government policy is made and what happens, but we're on the city is the bottom of the link of, or the bottom of the waterfall. It started at a federal level saying we don't want bad things to go into the water whenever it rains. We don't when it rains and the Mississippi River is full of pollutants or whatever, and here it's the ocean, basically, in Los Angeles. And so the federal government said years ago, decades ago, you need to come up with plans where what happens to your water. And so LA County came up with they're what developed the LID, low impact development guidelines. And they say, here's what we want to do with the water. And they came up with this manual. This is, it's been revised a couple of times, but the last one was 2014. It's like 500 pages. So it's not like reading. And they say, well, here's what we recommend. When property is developed, here's what we recommend. Now, my reading of it, then it's up to cities and unincorporated areas to say, here's what we're going to do. There's the guidelines from the county, and then the cities decide what they're going to do. Now, I've looked at the different cities and what they do to control stormwater, because the issue is that whenever there's rain, it washes whatever pollutants are on the streets and on people's roofs and things like that. It washes it into somewhere, either underground or into an ocean or into a river. So that's what got me on one of the things is I said, why don't we have to do these things in Manhattan Beach? We never have to build these systems, and these systems are not cheap. They're maybe $30,000 for a typical house by the time you're done. And why do we have to do them in Hermosa Beach? And I talked to Manhattan Beach and I said, well, we took the small lot exemption. Anything under 10,000 square feet, any lot, you don't have to do it. And all our lots, except a couple, are under 10,000 square feet. And I thought, well, that's funny. And I talked to Culver City, and they say, well, we don't require that in any kind of lid system until you're over 10 units. So a 10-unit complex, then you have to do it. And I thought, well, this is interesting, because in Hermosa Beach, every project has to do it. And not only that, we have tiny lots with almost no area to put the water in. And I thought, of all cities, this is the last one you want one of these lid systems, because they're very expensive per lot, and they're not really that effective because the lots are so small. And you have to look at the basin. The LA basin is the flood basin is something like 1,000 square miles, and we're 1.5 square miles. So we're barely over 1/10 of 1% of the area. So, why are we dumping all this money into these systems when they tend to have mosquitoes? So that's one part of it. Then, while the county, the public works is developing these standards, the county health department is saying, by the way, when you design these systems, because they're so prone to gathering mosquitoes, to breeding mosquitoes, you do something to keep them from breeding mosquitoes. Be aware that these systems breed mosquitoes. And they're, so you've got two different departments from LA County saying, do something, and another one is saying, well, be careful what you do. So my feeling is, or my sense, or my research leads me to believe that we've gone down the wrong path here in Hermosa Beach. We'd be better off limiting these systems rather than requiring. And that's where I am now. So it's been an interesting journey, and is it frustrating? I mean, it's like anything in government. It takes a long time to get things done, but ultimately that's a good thing, I think.
But can the systems be fixed? No pun intended, if you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, well, it's more important for us to prevent mosquito breeding grounds from developing these systems than it is for us to capture all of our stormwater on property so it doesn't flow down the street and out onto the beach and into the ocean. Isn't it better to try to fix these systems so that they don't result in standing water regardless of lot size?
Well, first of all, the problem with the system is they retain water. That's what they're made to do. They're made to hold water. And so they are just problematic. They're recognized in almost any technical journal I've read about it says they're a problem, and you just, once you build them, you've got an issue. The other thing is the lid manual that the county made. They said, well, here's what we suggest for big projects. Here's what we suggest for small projects. But that's another part. Hermosa Beach, every project in Hermosa Beach is a small project, but the only solutions we allow are big project solutions. So we end up, instead of, some of the solutions would be to put porous pavement in, or plant porous pavement in, or plant a couple trees, and that would do it. But instead, we require the whole thing with tubes and boxes, and so that's my read, my take of it. And somebody else might come up with something different and say, well, but you're not looking at this. But that's how I see it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I appreciate the dialogue. So some refinement might be in order. So sounds like you're working with Joe to take a look at what our standards are and whether they're appropriate for the size lots we have, and whether there's guidelines that apply to small lots that we might implement as opposed to the large lot type of guidelines, which require these underground systems that are designed to hold water. My thought was, especially in an area where we're at the beach, where we are built on sand, essentially, you would think that you would be able to basically capture the water and percolate it down quick enough that you don't have standing water that needs to be pumped out. Somewhere, farther up in the valley, you might have clay underneath and it might not percolate quite as fast, but here you would think it would. But, I understand it changes depending on where you are and what your volume is, et cetera. So in any event, I appreciate the dialogue, and hopefully we'll be able to reach a win-win for everybody.
Yes. By the way, you're exactly right with that. When you say in some areas, a clay area like the valley, you dump water on the ground and it stays there for maybe days. Here, you dump a bucket of water on the ground and it's gone almost instantly, right? So are our systems overkill? I would say yes, but we will. So working with Joe San Clemente, I don't want to put words in his mouth, because he has to look at this holistically too. He's looking at, do we have a problem? And what is the source of the problem? Is it really box drains and sumps? The data, I think, say, 2/3 of the time it is. But then how you make the what the requirement's going to be, it's kind of a different subject. So we will see how that goes.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions about sump pumps, mosquitoes, vector-borne viruses on this side? We're good. Thank you very much for the wonderful report, Jim, and your continued work.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to call up Chief LeBaron to provide us his report, his update.
Good evening, Mayor DeToy, members of City Council. I want to update the council tonight and our community on the great things that are happening at the police department, and also discuss some of the trends that we're seeing at the moment, and ask for the community's help. And I'll get into that in just a second. But first off, I am very happy to update you on the newest additions to our police department. And this is just since the last council meeting. They include police officers Ivan Reyes and Fabian Reyes. They're not brothers. They just happen to come at the same time. They joined us from another police department in Los Angeles County. And I know one of them is already working tonight because I saw him at the station earlier. One day later, this was last Thursday, Officer Ricky Julian was sworn in by his mother, and Mayor Pro Tem was there to be a part of that as well. After his graduation from the Rio Hondo Police Academy, which he's been at for about the last 5.5 months, we were able to find him as far away from Florida, and he came here and is now a member of our police department. He's going through his week of training, and he will be out in the field either this weekend or early next week. And we also welcome Community Services Officer Michael Levine, who is now working with our CSOs, being trained and eager to meet our community as he's out doing the things that we've asked him to do. Next, I'd like to talk about over the past 2 weeks that we've seen a steady increase in property crimes and specifically in auto burglaries. We're seeing a clear trend, and I want to share with you what we're seeing. And that is in many cases when people are calling us to report that their car was broken into and that items were taken from inside. We've done the investigations and we've learned 2 things. One of them, somewhat obvious, is that in 100% of the cases, people left stuff inside their cars. And that valuable property that is being taken ranges from things like business equipment, things that people need for their work, all the way to wallets, purses, and even car keys have been taken from inside cars. This is completely preventable. And so we are urging the community to recognize how important it is that they leave nothing in their car overnight. We're investigating the crimes, and like I said, we're seeing thousands of dollars worth of things might be taken from a car. The second thing we're noticing is that in many cases, the victims were sure that their car was broken into. For us, that means that the car was locked and that the thieves had to force entry in order to steal something. We don't doubt that people are under the impression or that they're locking their cars, but in those cases, our investigations are shown that there's no broken windows, there's no evidence of forced entry, and there's no indications that the car was locked. So it's important to recognize that even though you think your car is locked, we want people to double check it. We want to make sure for sure that it's locked. So we know through our investigations, through our intelligence, there are thieves out there that come into our city at night. Their MO is that they get out, they walk around in areas where there's a lot of cars parked, like streets, our neighborhood streets, parking garages, especially at apartment complexes, and parking lots. And all they're doing is going around checking door handles. And if they find a car that's unlocked, they get in, they grab what they can, and they leave. So our officers are being very proactive at night. They know who they're looking for in some cases. We've identified some people that we know are doing this. And they are successful many times in catching these, but we also need the community's help. And so our patrol bureau and our detectives have asked me to pass along some of the following tips, which might be rather familiar, but I'm going to repeat them anyway. Clean out your car of anything that looks or is valuable when it's parked. Lock your car and double check to ensure that it's locked. At this time, with what we're talking about specifically, we would ask that people be extra vigilant at night between midnight and 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when we're seeing a lot of these things happen. Don't ignore your neighbor's barking dog. If you hear it, they're barking for a reason. Get up and look if any of your motion lights go off. And finally, those that have surveillance cameras, whether they're on your doorbell or out in front of your house, if they're recording and they're motion detected, in the morning, check and see what kind of motion happened in your area of recording. If you see somebody suspicious or trespassing, even if they didn't commit a crime, we want to know about it. Your video may have captured your neighbor being the suspect who committed a crime in your neighbor's house. So keep in mind that every piece of information you give us is very, very important. Another crime trend that we're seeing is at a consistent level is the violence that's happening in our downtown and our Pier Plaza area in the late night hours. That's consistently involving alcohol. In the past 3 weeks, we've investigated 2 very serious fights that resulted in significant felony level crimes due to the injuries caused to the victims in these fights. 2 suspects have been arrested and have been charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon as a result of one of the fights. In each of these crimes, we know from the investigation that excessive alcohol consumption at the late night establishments was a factor with either the suspects or the victims. Although these crimes themselves rest on the shoulders of the people who chose to violently attack the victims, and we understand that, there's a larger concern to the police department. Right now, each of these crimes and many of the other less significant ones that we're investigating every weekend require a large police response, primarily from our officers that are working that night at that moment. And it takes them away from their ability to patrol the neighborhoods proactively to address some of these property crimes I mentioned. But in addition to that, I also want to make sure that the community realizes that there's a bigger impact to this, and it's immediate. Besides our on-duty resources, these kinds of violent and senseless crimes place a larger strain on those who work after the fact to manage the fallout. When a violent act is committed in our downtown area, most people may not realize that the overall impact has on our ability to serve our community. So, for example, it requires the response of our local firefighters. Hospital and emergency medical personnel are required to address whatever the immediate issues are. Our jail staff is working harder to make sure that we can hold and sometimes deal with very violent and uncooperative people due to their intoxication level. Police department's record staff, detectives, deputy district attorneys or city prosecutors, and city management, we all spend countless hours working to address the outcomes of these crimes that in many cases are preventable. All these hours are hours that could be spent working on the problems in our community that we're experiencing that involve things like traffic safety and quality of life that we know are a concern to our community. So anything that can prevent these crimes, and believe me, we are being very proactive in our patrol and enforcement, but anything that can prevent these crimes has a compound positive effect on public safety. I'd like to shift my comments for a minute to talk about the experiences we've heard from our community regarding safety. Over the past couple of weeks, I'm very aware that members of our community have raised concerns about topics such as e-bikes, traffic safety, homelessness, and other quality of life issues. I'm also aware that some members of the community have expressed, because I've heard it said, that the police department needs to, quote, start enforcing the law, end quote, or, quote, just be the bad guys, end quote, when conducting enforcement. The mission statement of the Hermosa Beach Police Department says that we exist so Hermosa Beach can be the safest little beach city. And this is what drives us every single day. We do it through adherence to our core values of honesty, integrity, and dedication. And I've spoken at length about the fact that violence in our country is what keeps me up at night and how it might impact our city here in Hermosa Beach. I recognize that nobody is immune to violence. And we have given our officers clear direction to ensure that we police constitutionally, that we respect people's rights, but that we're proactive in investigating activity that threatens the safety of our community. Our officers spend a lot of time in the community being visible and looking for indicators of criminal activity. Their efforts between January 1st of this year up until yesterday, October 10th, have resulted in 39 cases of involving suspects with weapons. Of these cases, 17 included firearms, 3 of which were ghost guns. And the seizure of a variety of weapons, including knives, switchblades, machetes, pepper spray, tear gas, and even a hammer used as a weapon, have all been seized during this year alone, with some of the proactive work being done by our officers. And the violence that's been prevented by that is immeasurable. Overall, our officers this year have made 82% more felony arrests than they did last year. They've made 23% more misdemeanor arrests than last year. And much of that success can be attributed to our covert bicycle operation that came in response to the high crime stat of bicycle theft, which we were experiencing in our community all of last year. This year, that operation has led to the arrest of 31 bike thieves, resulting in 29 felony filings of those arrests. 2 of them resulted in misdemeanor filings. The reason the 2 resulted in misdemeanor filings is because those are the only 2 we've arrested that did not have a serious criminal record. And that was one of the requirements for a felony filing. This is a 100% filing rate by our district attorney and city prosecutor. That is immeasured. It's beyond measure for what other municipalities might be experiencing. Of the people arrested, 6 have been sentenced to county jail or state prison for stealing a bicycle. 8 have been sentenced to felony probation and 17 are still awaiting their court dates. In addition to this work, traffic safety continues to be a top priority for us, and it's not reasonable to expect that our e-bike situation will be solved exclusively by the police department. And anybody who expects us to solve this by ourselves is misinformed. We play a big role. We do not deny that, and we do everything we can to make sure we're a part of the solution. But this is a much larger problem than an enforcement-based solution. Our efforts at the police department, they focus on the 3 E's of traffic safety, and that's enforcement, education, and engineering. And I'd like to share some of the things that have been done that maybe aren't recognized or acknowledged by our community. We formed partnerships with our school district that includes officers visiting the school campuses. We attend assemblies with the students to talk about bicycle safety and helmet safety. We've helped produce informational videos for the students. We've conducted education through bicycle rodeos as recently as yesterday at one of our elementary schools. We engage with the students. We have partnerships with South Bay Bicycle Coalition. We're working with our regional courts to reinstitute a diversion program for those that are cited for bicycle-related crimes. And just today, we posted on social media about some of the efforts that we're doing. You can see it right now if you go to our Instagram or Facebook page. We use message boards, signage in key areas. We use media outreach, and we collaborate with students as recently as this month, working with Miracosta High School on a student-produced video on traffic safety, which has been seen by nearly every student at Miracosta, and I had a part in being interviewed on that, which was an honor that they reached out to me. In addition to these steps, we do and continue to enforce the law, and I want to make sure that's clear. Since January 1st of this year up until yesterday, our officers have conducted over 3,300 traffic stops citywide for various violations. 26% of those citations, over 1/4 of them, were issued either on the Strand or Hermosa Avenue. Of all the citations issued at those locations, the Strand or Hermosa Avenue, running stop signs and motorized vehicles on the Strand were in the top 3 of the most cited violations. When we compare traffic stops conducted this year to last year, we have a 22% increase in stops from what we did last year, and 47% more stops than what we had in 2019. In conclusion, I talked about the recent hires. In the last 3 months, we've hired 12 new employees at the police department. It's phenomenal work by our human resources department, our city manager's office, and the internal recruitment team at the police department. All of our employees that have been working here, that continue to want to come here and work here, all point to the fact that it is our community support, the city council support, our city manager support that makes this the best place to work. I hear it over and over in the interviews with our new employees and with our current employees. We are a part of this community. We enjoy serving. We love what we do, and we're going to continue to do it. And we appreciate the support that we're getting from our community. Mayor Detoy, this concludes my report, and I'm ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief, for that report. Thank you for those stats. I mean, it's just outstanding work from the men and women in the police department, just year over year. The success stories and the proactive patrolling the troops have been doing has been awesome. So thank you for the report, Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor Detoy. Chief, thank you for the thorough report and sorting out facts from perception or projection or whatever. The only additional key player that I didn't hear you list in that long list is yourself. Your leadership as the chief of this police department. I know in my observation, I feel it's very clear that the leadership you've brought to this department has contributed greatly to the reputation that I am sure that we're getting evidence of, but that is the reason that we are getting the best and the brightest here to Hermosa Beach. And I'm glad that they feel supported by our community and by our council and our city staff. Thank you, Thank you, Chief.
Councilwoman Armato.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo those sentiments of Councilmember Campbell. Thank you for your leadership, Chief. My one question to you, because the facts are the facts, but unless people are watching this meeting right now, they may not know those facts. Is there a way to get this out on social media, just this, post snippets, or was that already the plan to let people know that work's getting done and we're a safer place because of it?
Yes, thank you. the question's a complicated one. There are so many sources of information. We can't reach everybody, but we use our social media as a primary way of communicating. Right before this meeting, many of the things I just talked about, including some really funny pictures of Sergeant Smith riding a bicycle about this big, are on social media. So at least go look at it for that, and you can like it for that. So that's out there. Every time I give a report to council, we put that into a version that can be posted on social media, and within a couple of days, it is on social media for everybody to read everything that I talked about. So you can expect that will consistently happen, and it will be out there for everybody to consume. And we continue to ask people to be involved in Neighborhood Watch. Call us up, let us know. We will come out and talk to you and share this information as well.
Thank you. And one more question on the violence that you're seeing in Pier Plaza. Are you seeing a partnership with the businesses or the late night establishments? Where do things stand with that?
There has certainly been an open line of communication, and I'm grateful for that. I know our Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Accomando, is here right now, and she has been a great resource. She's constantly available and consults and gives me good advice on how we can approach things. I'm hoping that there's going to be more. I'm hopeful that the businesses will see that this is a problem that affects all of us, and that the police department, again, much like e-bikes, can't solve this by ourselves. Many of them have stepped up, many of them support us, and we're grateful for that. And we look forward to more of it in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for the update. I appreciate the opportunity to attend last week's swearing in for Officer Julian. Just a tremendous story, and certainly a testament to your leadership that he was willing to move his entire family clear across the country to be a part of this team here, after first discovering our little beach city 2 years ago. So the faith that he had in you, your leadership, your team, as well as this city, speaks volumes. And I could just see that true happiness on his face last week when he joined our Hermosa Beach family. So thanks to you, what you're doing with your team, and of course to the city manager for her leadership as well. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. It didn't hurt to have a Mayor Pro Tem that's from Florida also to welcome him.
All right, seeing no other questions, I guess questions for Madam City Manager on her report as well. Thank you, Chief. You have anything else?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, you have questions for Madam City Manager? Madam City Clerk, what's next on our agenda?
Item 9, public participation, oral and written communications from the public. This is a time for members of the public to address the council on consent calendar items and items on and not on the agenda. However, if you are here to address the city council on a municipal matter item, we do strongly encourage you to speak on the item when it is heard. If you speak on a municipal matter item at this time, you will not be able to speak on the same matter when it is heard at a later part of this meeting. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and if you are joining the meeting by phone, please remember to dial *6 to unmute yourself and *9 to raise your hand. Participants joining by internet, please remember to unmute yourself and please state your name for the record. And I guess we have one person here in public.
Jessica Commando, resident and president of the chamber. Thank you all. Just to follow up with what the chief said, we are working with the businesses to try and make improvements down there. We are in discussions for the formation of a bid and how we can go forward with that measure on the listed economic development strategy. So those conversations are happening, and I do feel like we are making progress. So I just wanted to thank the chief and the businesses for being part of that effort. So thank you. But that's not what I was coming here. I was coming to remind everybody that tomorrow night is a candidate mixer. I'm unsure for sure, but I'm pretty sure we're the only mixer that has all 8 candidates available. So our community, of course, we represent the business community, but we welcome the entire public to come and meet all of those candidates. So I'm just making an announcement for anybody listening. It's at Vista tomorrow night at 5:30, and there is a small fee to cover the food that's free for everybody there. And you can register on the chamber's website. So that's all I wanted to encourage. Thank you.
Seeing nobody else in the chamber, we do have some virtual hands raised. The first is Captioner. Captioner, you may go ahead and begin once you're unmuted. And that may be our actual captioner for this meeting. I'm not sure. So I will move on to the next person. Scott Hayes. Scott Hayes, your 3 minutes will begin once you unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Hayes. I live on First Street in Hermosa Beach. I spoke at the September Parks and Rec meeting about the summer beach concerts in hopes to get an early start to trying to regenerate the concerts and get them back to where they were years ago, where we've got the concerts on every Sunday in August. And then hopefully Friends of the Park does the movies on Saturday nights. I wasn't encouraged by the response. I wrote letters to, all of you got letters, everybody on the Parks and Rec Commission got a letter from me encouraging the commission and the council to really pay attention. That this is something that everybody wants, and to try see what we can do to get the concerts back up and running now that we're kind of somewhat back to normalcy. After the last, I was not able to attend the last Parks and Rec meeting, but it sounds like there is some movement in that direction. And I just wanted to reiterate my feelings on this. All of the candidates for City Council, all 8 have indicated that they feel strongly that the concert should come back. And I'm trying to keep this on everybody's radar. So thank you for consideration. And I look forward to seeing this on an agenda, either council or Parks and Rec in the near future. Thank you.
Next, we have Tony Higgins. Tony, your 3 minutes will begin now.
Yeah, hello. Tony Higgins here. I listened to Chief LeBaron's statistics, and you know, I have to say I'm impressed with him. He's moving things in the right direction. I also have to say that, you know, I've done 27th Street is an extremely busy street now. Gould going into 27th, and I've done probably 2 or 3 public records requests over the past 5 years regarding speeding tickets and excessively loud vehicle tickets on 27th Street between Manhattan Avenue and Valley Drive. And there was not a record of one speeding ticket or ticket for an extremely noisy vehicle. So while I applaud and really recognize that things are moving in the right direction, there still is a hole in the enforcement. And I get that a lot of that is caused by, you know, resources being sucked up by the downtown area. Second thing, mosquitoes, a subject near and dear to my heart. I sit at the northwest corner of Valley Park with my dog very often at dusk. And from, say, the first week of August up until about a week and a half ago, I got bit nearly every day. And I gotta wonder if it has anything to do with the water recovery system for Valley Park and the cistern that's used for that, and if that is a problem. I also got to applaud Joe San Clemente, because since he's taken over, you know, we used to see broken sprinklers. I used to see them, you know, every 2 or 3 weeks, from vehicles driving over them or kids coming along and kicking them. Those things are getting addressed. So you know, it's a good thing, but I gotta wonder if that water recovery system isn't the source of the mosquitoes. They're tapering off now. And that's basically all I got to say right now. So thank you very much.
Next, we have Kent Ellen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I really appreciate it. I think it was awesome. I would like to point out that September was Prostate Awareness Month. And I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't hear anything about Prostate Awareness Month, which is a major killer of men. It kind of far dwarfs other cancers. Anyways, many candidates have recently been talking about the lack of transparency with the city and specifically the city council. And whenever this concern is raised, I've noticed in the debate that Ray Jackson's responses are utterly dismissive of such concerns. I'm talking about obvious Brown Act violations. And what I'd like to say, I'd like to give a tip of the hat and kudos to all the candidates who have turned in their 460. And I'd like to point out tonight that Ray Jackson is the only candidate that has not filed and turned in his 460 form. And I think maybe tonight he should speak and say, why hasn't he turned it in? I mean, you talk about a lack of transparency. I don't know, I don't want to do it. I've done it in the past, but maybe I have to contact the FPC with the Raymond Jackson's campaign. I just don't understand why I wonder what he's trying to hide. That's really what it is. Who is supporting his campaign? I know he was at the meeting at Tower 12. I will also point out that Ray Jackson has no website. Every other candidate has a website explaining their positions. And Ray Jackson has no website. And he's really, quite frankly, not explained any of his positions on anything. So I'm here tonight to tell you that look at everybody else, but you can't look at Ray because he simply doesn't have anything to look at. And it's his own fault. Thank you.
And I see no other virtual hands raised. Oh, Matt McCool, your 3 minutes will begin now.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Hello, Mayor DeToy, City Council staff, Matt McCool. I have 3 items tonight. Before I do, I want to go ahead and preface one thing, or actually 2 items, is that I appreciate Deputy Police Chief LeBaron giving his police report, but in the end of the day, these are statistics given by him. Until there is an actual ICMA report by a third party, independent third party, verifying some of this, it is an issue for me. As a city candidate, as a candidate for city council, running as public safety, this is my number 1 issue. And I still think that we have major public safety issues within the city. And this is just more propaganda to go ahead and tell the people as a cover up that there's actually real crime in the city. So I am running as a candidate specifically positioned as a repudiation vote for the last 5 years of this 5-0 city council with absolutely no checks at all and complete absolute one-sided votes on everything. I want to go ahead and put this in kind of perspective here. On October 2015, I attended my first city council meeting. That was 7 years ago. I've been actively involved ever since. And during that meeting, there were 2 public hearings and 12 municipal matters. I want to put this in perspective for tonight. We have 0 public hearings and only 3 municipal matters, which are probably the weakest things I've ever seen. So I've been campaigning on the fact that this city council has been running things behind closed doors. I don't think you need any more information than that to refute that. Second item, we had a city council candidate debate. Robert Fortunato once again decided he was going to go ahead and make a run at me. And that's fine. I sent him packing like I did the last time. He was trying to tell me that renewable energy is cheaper, but I have to look at the fact that when you guys put us in CCA, we had 40%, 50%, 100% choice. if renewable energy is cheaper, why is 100% more money? But then this goes back to the fact is, why was this never discussed? We had 40%, 50%, 100%. I hope somebody in this community steps up and says, you know what, we need to do a cure and correct, because 40, 50, and 100 was never discussed. It was automatically put into 100%. Last item, Advocates for Hermosa. Been doing this for the last 6-7 years. We've been a watchdog group for all the corruption that's been going on in the city council. I broke Thrive. Thrive was the biggest break of all time. I can go on and on about my body of work, but I got something coming tomorrow night. Actually, I'll put it out tomorrow morning. It's just the biggest break ever. Joshua E. Imel has confirmed with me that the city council chamber, the Chamber of Commerce is embezzling money. I will put out the details on Advocates for Hermosa. If you're on Facebook, go to Advocates for Hermosa tomorrow morning. I will have the details of the Chamber of Commerce embezzling money, of all the details, plus the third party. You can't beat this. Matt McCool for City Council.
One last call for public comment. If you're joining us virtually, mouse on the bottom of the screen, raise your virtual hand. Join us by telephone, dial *9 to raise your virtual hand. Seeing no other hands raised, I'll close public participation. And we need a motion to accept the written communication.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we receive and file the written communications.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Massey, second from Councilwoman Armato. Any questions on that? Comments? Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Armato.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Massey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Aye.
Mayor Detoy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Bring us to city council member comments. If anyone would like to briefly respond to public comments, ask questions for clarification, or make a brief announcements, I want to first ask Madam City Manager. One public commenter was about the summer concerts. Do you have an update or any? I did not watch a Parks and Rec meeting, so if you could cue me on that.
Absolutely. And as Commissioner Hayes mentioned, Lisa Nichols, our Parks and Rec Director, provided an update on that. So post-COVID, what we did when Jessica Accomando took over as head of the chamber, we approached her as a chamber partner to see if they would be open and interested in incorporating summer concerts into one of the events. And so Fiesta Locale in last year, 2021, included summer concerts. Timing was a little bit later than what the community is accustomed to from prior years, which is August. And so we put out a couple of press releases indicating that we are transitioning summer concerts for now into what the chamber is offering through Fiesta Hermosa. However, there does seem to be interest amongst the community to have a summer concert series. The model that we have always had in Hermosa Beach for the summer concert series, which is that the city is not paying to put them on, they are free, puts a lot of burden on the producers to raise money. And so the alternative to that would be very expensive for the city. And so in a time when we do have finite resources, it is difficult to determine whether the city should set aside funding in order to produce these events. And so we are working with the chamber, and we'll be discussing what their interests are in producing concerts. We can also take it a different direction and put out a call for proposals. But again, the model we've always followed is very difficult. However, it's doable. And I think in finding sponsorships, the city can continue to produce with help or put on the summer concerts. It's a lengthy answer, but what I do want to assure everyone is that in the meantime, I'm hoping that folks enjoy the amazing concerts that are put on by the chamber through Fiesta, but I do understand that there is a lot going on during that time, and having a separate event is also of value. So we're still working on that, and it is not off the table or off our minds, but definitely something that we are working on.
Perfect, thank you. Any other comments or questions for staff? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have an update. The public's welcome to attend. My colleagues are welcome to log in online, but the COG is hosting their legislative briefing, and we will have staff from all of the legislators' offices that represent this area, and also Senator Sidney Comlager and Senator Stephen Bradford in attendance and available to answer any and all questions. Thank you. Oh, October 13th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. One last call for comments. Seeing none, Madam City Clerk.
We have the consent calendar, and this is the time for council members to remove any item from the consent calendar for separate discussion and to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Any comments or a motion? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to pull item J, please.
Okay. Any other items to be pulled? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the remainder, the balance?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent calendar, omitting item J.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Massey, second from Councilwoman Armato to approve the balance, noting item J being pulled. Any other comments? Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Armato,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Massey,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson,
Aye.
Mayor Detoy.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have item J, Report 22-0626, adoption of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Hermosa Beach, approving the Joint Powers Agreement for Clean Power Alliance of Southern California and authorizing the implementation of a community choice aggregation program.
Thank you. I'll look to Mayor Pro Tem for questions or direction on procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last council meeting, we chose a default power level of 100% renewable energy. That was included in the motion, but it is not in the ordinance. So I had a question with regard to that percentage and discussing a potential reconsideration of that.
Look to Doug or the city attorney on.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Jackson, you're correct that it is, it was part of the motion. It was not, it's not in the ordinance. And so if you wanted, if you wanted to ask the council to reconsider it, you could ask the council to place that item on a future agenda. And then the council could take it up at that time. You can't do it tonight because that particular issue is not on tonight's agenda. The only issue on tonight's agenda is the second reading and adoption of the ordinance, which doesn't address that issue, as we've already established. Mr. Kraus tells me that there is ample time to reconsider that matter if the council were to want to take it up.
So I could table that until the end and for a potential future agenda item.
Yes, you could.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Councilor Massey.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of procedure. Would there not have to be a motion for reconsideration at some point? Or would it be another matter item, for example, to reconsider?
It would be another matter item. Technically, a motion for reconsideration is only proper at the same meeting, made by a person who voted in the majority, but we are no longer in that meeting. So this would essentially be basically somebody asking as a future agenda item to bring something back. And there isn't anything from a parliamentary point of view that would preclude that.
And just so I'm clear on it, my recollection was that the way we voted was simply to adopt the ordinance approving the joint powers agreement and then direct staff to have 100% be the default rate. That was what we were asked to consider, and that's what we did, as I recall it. So it wasn't, it wasn't part of the ordinance that what the default rate was. It was a direction to staff as far as how to implement the JPA.
That's exactly right, which is why I indicated that there's no reason not to proceed forward with the ordinance because that has no impact on the direction that was given.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Assume still open up for public comment and everything like that. Perfect. Madam City Clerk.
Seeing no public comment for this item in the chambers, we'll move over to Zoom. This is a time for members that are joining us virtually to raise your virtual hand, and we do have Kent Allen. Kent, your 3 minutes will begin once you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Well, Justin Massey has just been exposed, and thank God. I don't think, quite frankly, up until 2 weeks ago, I don't even think Jackson even knew what CCA stands for. It's just, I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, he's probably the least knowledgeable person in the entire city on CCA matters. But somebody got to him, and that's nice. And I think that's great. And this will be the matter of a subject of a cure and correct. It will be forthcoming. And obviously, we know that Diamond Bar Jenkins is going to side with the thing. But you know what? Here's the bottom line. This thing, I would be all for CCA. As a matter of fact, I will publicly state I am totally for this CCA so long as it's an opt-in and not an opt-out. Okay. So if you want to opt into this thing, that's fine. If you want to spend more money, if you want your bills to be higher, that's up to you. This is all a shell game. This is nothing more than trading, wind farm credits from Nebraska or whatever. I mean, it's just Justin Massey is selling snake oil right here. And, obviously he's a pariah in this town at this point. But you know what? This will be the subject of a cure and correct. And I sincerely hope that we have 3 new members on this councils, and I sincerely hope I support all the other 6 candidates. I hope Jackson.
Reminder to please stay on topic. Thank you.
I am on topic, miss, so please don't interrupt me again. But this CCA thing is it's a joke. We're going to delay it until the next city council meeting. Until the new city council is seated. And I just want to let you know, and thank you, Suja, for not interrupting me. I think this might be the first time you ever did not do that. So thank you. I'm done.
Next, we have Matt McCool. Matt, your 3 minutes will begin once you're muted.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Matt McCool, candidate for City Council. Hello, Mayor DeJoy, City Council and staff. Just want to go ahead and call in. This is exactly why I'm running for City Council, is I've been providing watchdog services for the community about this very particular issue is brought up. Again, I said, when Mr. Robert Fortunato tried to challenge me on this at the last City Council debate, this is why this has been brought up. Since my public comments here earlier, I have received multiple text messages that people will be sending in cure or correct letters. And we have to go back to the actual meeting this happened. I had called it from the beginning, and this is a see, I told you so. And I've lost count how many I've had over the years, but I've made a career on this. I said it was going to be 100% renewable, 5-0 vote, and it was, but there was no discussion. So let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to head and do this and do what's right for the people rather than serve your own personal political agenda. But I can tell you this is coming. And I received also a text message here tonight about a writ of mandate. I'm not sure what this is. I'm not a legal attorney, but apparently that's going to be coming. Somebody's going to take this to a judge and do a writ of mandate. This is a text message that I received. Probably you guys are going to have some problems with this. Hopefully this gets pushed to the new city council that we're going to have after November. That's my piece. Thank you.
Seeing no other hands raised, one last call for public comment. Mouse down the bottom of the screen if you'd like to speak on consent calendar item J. Seeing none, I'll close public comment and look for a motion.
Happy to make a motion, Mr. Mayor. I move that are we good? Sorry.
Sorry, questions or comments? Motion.
Okay. I'll move that we waive full second reading and adopt by title an ordinance of the city of Hermosa Beach approving the joint powers agreement for Clean Power Alliance of Southern California and authorizing the implementation of a community choice aggregation program and direct staff to print and publish the summary ordinance in a newspaper of general circulation within 15 days following adoption and posted on the city's bulletin for 30 days.
Thank you, Councilwoman Armato with the motions or a second?
Second.
Councilmember Massey. Any last comments or questions? Madam City Clerk?
Councilmember Armato.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Massey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Aye.
Mayor Detoy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Mr. Mayor, I don't know exactly how to handle this. Maybe it's a motion for reconsideration since we just talked about that. We approved the consent items and I had a question for one of them, item 11D. Mr. City Attorney, do I need to do a motion of reconsideration?
This is the fire and ambulance
Yes.
report. Well, I think you can ask the question and then we can decide whether or not there
Okay.
needs to be an action.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, am I okay asking the questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I read the report and it was concerning in two parts. It appears that the call transfer time, so this is RCC's already, however long someone's been on hold to get in touch with RCC, who then takes some information from the caller, then transfers it over to the county. In a couple of instances, one instance is almost a 3-minute hold. One is another just under 2 minutes. Another is about a minute. Another is 2 minutes. Another is a minute and a half. Another is almost 2 minutes. And again, this is after they've already called 911, talked to an operator, and it's now transferred over to LA County. So that's number one concern, why there's more than a couple calls with quite a delayed answer time. And the other is on our actual response time for code 3, we are not, we have a delayed response in over 60% of those calls, which is concerning. I don't know what the standard is. I would, imagine it's less than 60% should be delayed. I would hope for 0 or some number close to that. I recognize there's challenges, but if we have any answers for either of those concerns, that would be great.
So with those questions, Mr. City Attorney, what do you recommend? Motion for
No, I don't recommend any action. I think that we can just provide some supplemental responses to city council to those questions at a future time.
That suffice.
Sure. But, okay.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. City Attorney, just quickly, if we had Chief Bennett on the call, I know he was on the call just in case, and as was Joseph Chidley from McCormick, but would it be possible for Chief to provide a response or would you? Yeah, okay. Do you know if he's joined yet, Madam Clerk?
No, he has not.
We can have him come back at the next meeting and provide a response.
So you're just looking for clarification on those few call transfer times, and then is that the last page you were wondering? Which is about McCormick ambulance response, not LA County Fire.
Oh, that's McCormick.
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies.
So we'll have At your next meeting, it's the semi-annual report, so we will have, and we have Chief Bennett on now. So Chief, I'm not sure if you were able to hear the question, but I think it was primarily for McCormick Ambulance.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, sorry, I had logged off after consent calendar, so I did not hear the question.
Just to, do you want to ask it again, Councilwoman Armato?
Hi, Chief. I was inquiring about a pretty lengthy call hold time when calls are transferred from RCC to the county in a few instances, and if those have been looked into and what we're doing to kind of ensure that that is a less frequent occurrence.
I did. I looked into, I think there were four for this. I think there were four that I remember. One of them was longer than we'll normally see, like I think it was a 2 or 3 minute. Most of the others are just due to call volume, that as in the past, we just can't ever predict when we get a surge of calls at our main dispatch center. So I look into every one of them, and we're thinking that the one that was, I think it was like a 3 minute hold time, there was some error in the system, just because that would be more than we've ever had. But I haven't actually circled back and talked to our staff up at Command and Control, but I will on that one. I think the others were just slightly over the 1 minute, if I'm correct. I don't have the report in front of me.
Yeah, one is 2 minutes, one's a minute and a half. There was the almost 3 minute one and another one
Yeah.
that's just about 2 minutes. Yeah.
I'll report back to council on that one. The others were definitely during a surge where every call that was transferred in was put on hold just because of volume and staffing.
Okay, thank you. And then just for clarification, so do we not get the response times from the county? The final page is from McCormick on the report, the code 3 response times.
Yeah, you should have the response times in there. We give highs, lows, and an average monthly. Is it not in the report?
We have in the report response times, and then another column says within an allowable time, and then there's delayed response and canceled. But perhaps that's
And
not-
and is that are you looking at the McCormick response time?
It's unclear to
county
me.
fire? Okay, yeah, no, it should be. There's a monthly report that goes to. It used to go to Brandy, but it's going monthly to emergency coordinator with all of the fire department responses.
We do have responses by time of day. I'm not seeing response times.
So on
Okay,
page 7, it says McCormick Ambulance, and then I think the rest of the 4 pages are all McCormick data. That's how I read it.
Okay, I'll look back into that and find out why you didn't get the monthly response times, because those all should be in for Station 100.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. That concludes my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for hopping back on.
No problem.
All right. Where were we, Madam City Clerk? Got the-
Item 13, public hearings, which we do not have any at this time.
Okay.
Next, we have item 14A, consideration of a holiday-free parking program.
Welcome, Madam City Manager, or Deputies Madam City Manager.
This
Hi.
one,
Sorry.
you are.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. City Clerk, if you could please queue up the presentation. Okay, thank you so much. So the item we have before you this evening is consideration of a holiday parking program for the 2022 holiday season. Originally, the holiday parking program was created to promote and encourage people to visit, dine, and shop locally throughout the holiday season. Traditionally, this program has included 445 citywide commercial zone silver post meters and offered in accordance with posted meter times to continue to allow for turnover of vehicles. The program is branded and the rules of the program clarified with red festive meter covers. Next slide, please. For the last since 2018, the city has annually offered a 4-week program. Here we have the different options that City Council consider this evening. A 4-week or a 28-day holiday parking program could begin the day after Thanksgiving and extend to Christmas. There's alternate options for City Council to consider: a 3-week program from December 5th through December 25th, or a 2-week program from December 12th through December 25th. Next slide, please. The fiscal impact basically represents deferred revenues that the city would have otherwise collected at the parking meters and for parking citations. Estimates for a 4-week program are $150,156. A 3-week program, $112,617, and a 2-week program, $75,078. And with that, you did receive a letter of support this evening from the Chamber of Commerce, and I know the Chamber of Commerce president is also in attendance. Staff is available for any questions on this item.
Thank you for that report. I will look to my colleagues for any questions. I always forgot the 2-year deal last time. It's expensive. Seeing no questions. Oh, you got a question, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you for the report. Do we have any way of determining the economic impact to the businesses for the 4 weeks of taxpayer subsidized, quote unquote, free parking?
So Mayor Pro Tem, I think this same question had come up some years back, and it would be incumbent upon the businesses to show us what differences they may attribute to the fact that we have that subsidy available or waiver of those fees available. I don't know if the chamber has looked into it. It is one of the economic support tools that I believe contributes to the vibrance of our businesses in the downtown, but we don't have specific dollar amounts of the impact.
Okay. And sort of along those lines, I've seen and I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories about actual employees using a lion's share of the downtown parking spots. Is there any mechanism to ensure that those spots would be used for visitors and not those that are working?
Right now, it's on an honor system, Mayor Pro Tem. We have in the past asked businesses to discourage staff from parking in the downtown, because a lot of times we hear from businesses that they would like those spots for customers that want to come into the shops and restaurants and be available for that. And so it is on an honor system. In terms of mechanism, the holiday parking program doesn't allow you to exceed the time limit. So we do have CSOs that check time limit violations and try to stay on top of that. But right now, that's really what we're able to do. We've asked if businesses can provide parking at the parking structure at different places, but not right, in the immediate downtown where we would like customers to park. It's a partnership. I think I'm delicately trying to share that it's a partnership between us and the businesses. And so we do need the business support to to ensure that that doesn't happen and those spots are reserved for customers.
Right, because I've heard the same comments with regard to, folks can't park in front of a business because the parking spots are being taken by employees that work up and down in the downtown area. Have we had any comments from those on the PCH corridor or aviation corridor? Any comments about, what are you doing for us sort of thing?
Not as it relates to this particular item. I can ask Angela if maybe she's heard from PCH constituents, stakeholders.
No, Mayor Pro Tem, I haven't heard of any direct feedback from them either on this item.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Massey.
Thank you. Just for Mayor Pro Tem's benefit, this was discussed over many years. And certain business owners have said anecdotally that their revenue has increased when the free parking was offered. It started at 2 weeks several years ago, then it went to 3. Since 2018, it's been 4. The sales tax revenue data from the city doesn't support the anecdotal feedback from certain businesses that there's an increase in revenue during the month. And I know for 1 year anyway, we tried out free parking in January, I believe it was. So an off-season period when foot traffic is generally lower than the holiday period. And as I understood it anyway, from staff at the time, there was some indication that that had some effect, that moved the needle, in other words, in a way that was visible in the sales tax revenue data for the city. But generally speaking, I think a lot of it is anecdotal, and some of the anecdotal information isn't supported by the overall sales tax data.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Councilmember Campbell.
I think for city staff, are we aware yet of where our neighbor cities have landed? I know once in a while that comes into this conversation for this year.
Both Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach are continuing their 4-week program.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions for staff, Madam City Clerk, could you queue up public comment, please?
Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. And if you are joining this meeting by phone, please remember to dial *6 to unmute yourself and *9 to raise your hand. And we do have an in-person comment.
Everybody, Jessica Arcamando, Chamber of Commerce. Forgive me, I did take notes as you were asking questions so that I could respond to them. In terms of businesses on Pacific Coast Highway, there's not typically or aviation competition for parking. Also, most of our shopping that you do at the holiday time happens in the downtown area as opposed. We certainly would advocate for those PCH and aviation businesses should they bring it up to us. And they've never mentioned it, at least in my tenure. I also agree that I wish we had a way to measure the results and the impact on the businesses. I understand what you said, Councilmember Massey, but I fear more the impact of the removal of it. With our neighboring cities having a larger retail footprint and having this program, it feels like we would just be pushing people away. And I do think then you would see the results. So I'm afraid of not doing it now that it's become a South Bay tradition. I also know that because we've been doing it for so long that although I understand that it's lost revenue that we could be making, it's still a regular community event that I think is worth funding, just like the summer concert series. I am happy to ask our businesses strongly and urgently not to allow their employees to park in those spots. I understand how that could happen. That would frustrate me. So I understand that frustration, and I'm happy to get behind whatever communication we can do to facilitate that. I also have brought up to some personal conversations I've had with some of you, but this program isn't just for businesses, it is for residents. We are a walking and biking city, and I love that. But during the holidays, it is a little bit chillier for us Californians. And when you shop, you don't want to walk a mile with all your bags in your shopping bags. So as you will, I think, see in some of the e-comments and on Facebook, I posted something to inquire. This community very much treasures this tradition because it gives them an opportunity to support local and not shop online, which is critical right now, especially post-pandemic, as people now have choices also to go back to the mall. And then publicity about this matters. It makes a huge impact when our businesses can send out an email to all of their followers saying the red bag program is back. Now's the time to come out and shop. And I did understand there was a comment about maybe pushing it back to a later start date. I did inquire with the businesses that have traditionally a lot of success in the holiday time. And really the challenge with that is that the most impactful time of the 4-week period is that first weekend. So that is the most popular weekend for everybody in the community to feel like holiday season has commenced, and every day matters for sales at each of these businesses. Every time they lose a couple days, that has a huge impact on their holiday season. And this is very different from last year. Last year, a lot of people had a little bit of extra money to spend, but we're seeing a huge change in trend, and our retailers as well as restaurants have been seeing a negative impact this year, or down numbers, I should say. So with that, I'm happy to try and collect data however I can. I love data as well. I will try and see if I can get businesses to capture foot traffic, and maybe we can compare it to other usual busy times of the year. But notoriously, it's the holiday season. It's the most revenue generating time for businesses. And with such a dead off season that we have in Hermosa, these 4 weeks are critical. So thank you very much.
Now is the time for virtual public comment. And Matt McCool, your hand is raised and your 3 minutes will begin once you're unmuted.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Hello, City Council, Matt McCool. It is a rare, very rare occurrence when Councilman Massey and I are on the same page and agree about something, because specifically as I am positioning myself as a city council candidate that is the opposition to Councilman Massey, and I agree with him completely 100% on this issue. Wanted to go ahead and call out one particular e-comment that came from Commissioner Bob Wolf about putting later date like that idea. We give up days a year to the Chamber of Commerce to have Fiesta Hermosa to generate revenue. What are we getting back for this? I mean, like I said, I got some contact information from Joshua E. Imhoff about some financial improprieties going on with the Chamber of Commerce. I would love to see the Chamber of Commerce, since we give up 6 days of our city, to go ahead and contribute financially to this program. And the biggest reason why I have this issue is because there is a large contingency within this community, and everybody on the city council knows who they are, who believes that the Fiesta should only be once a year, not twice a year. So if we're giving up our city to go ahead and have Fiesta twice a year, what kind of financial revenue is the Chamber of Commerce bringing into the city? And I think it can contribute at least for 1 week of this program to show that there are actually invested into our city, into the businesses. And I don't see this. And I'm sick and tired of the Chamber of Commerce not providing any financial data of what they're bringing in from the Fiesta while we give up. This is not a good business situation. So if we're going to support this, and I agree with Councilman Massey, everything he said about the empirical data and the lack of it, but I think the Chamber of Commerce should go ahead and financially invest at least 1 week into this program. That's my time. Matt McCool for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tony Higgins. Tony, your 3 minutes will begin once you're muted.
Hi again. Tony Higgins here. I'm troubled by the fact that we've had this program for 20 years or however long it's been, and we still don't have a way to measure the financial impact of the free parking and how much revenue that brings into the city, as well as for the businesses themselves. I thought that the city manager's response was a bit dismissive in saying, well, it's up to the Chamber of Commerce to provide that data. No. If we're gonna, give $150,000 to these businesses over and gonna continue doing this, we should be asking for the data we need, not just, dismissing the problem and saying, oh, it's up to the Chamber of Commerce. That just seems wrong to me. And I wish you would do something about it. I'm not for or against. I think it's probably a good idea. But after 20 years, we should have a way to measure the impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's call for public comment on item 14A, consideration of the holiday free parking program. Join us virtually, mouse down the bottom of your screen, raise a virtual hand. If you're joining us in person, you can approach the dais. Seeing none, I will close public comments and bring it back to council for comments, deliberation, or motion. Councilman Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my concern over the years has been how this has expanded from 2 weeks to 3 weeks to 4 weeks. And as a result, I've indicated that I would support 3 weeks in the past, but have not voted for 4 weeks. That's going to change tonight. I'm going to vote for 4 weeks for a couple of reasons. One is we've settled in since 2018 at 4 weeks. The other beach cities are at 4 weeks and have consistently been at 4 weeks. So it seems like the creep of this program has been stopped. If we start hearing, gee, it should start on Black Friday and go to New Year's, and we keep on getting creep on the program, then we're going to have to scrutinize what it costs to the city. But at this point, for several years now, we've settled in with the 3 cities on the same schedule, which I think does create marketing opportunities, does add value. And ultimately, at the end of the day, given the stability we've had in it, for me, the intangibles of it beyond, our ability to measure on a dollar and cents basis what it means. In an ideal world, if we're going to invest $150,000 to support our businesses, you would hope that it would drive foot traffic. And right now, candidly, I'm not sure that this program does. We hear from our business owners that anecdotally, our customers love it and they come down, but it doesn't show up in the data. None of the business owners come forward with their books because they just don't. They don't on any issue. So, they can say things without supporting them. So I do have those concerns that this is not an insignificant amount of money, and I'm not sure it's the best way for us to invest that amount of money in helping actually increase foot traffic and increase revenue to our businesses to help them sustain. But it has the intangible benefits. I think it's stabilized. I think it's what the other beach cities have been consistently doing along with us. And for those reasons, I'll support it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Look at my left, Councilwoman Armato.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support it too. I love the 4-week holiday program. And actually, I looked to my colleagues. We did this the last time we approved it, I think was for the 2-year period in 2020. I think we should consider doing the same or even 3 years so that this doesn't, it can come back as an informational item perhaps from the city manager's office and the chamber each year at the holiday time, but I'd like to see this not have to come back. We get a lot of emails. Everyone wants 4 weeks of free parking. Not to say that feedback is not helpful, but it's consistent. That's not changed. So, I would support approving this program for 4 weeks for 2 or 3 years, depending on if you all are interested in that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for adding that to discussion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, we all love free. I am the king of free. My kids and wife say I'm cheap. I just think I'm frugal. We love free parking. We love free charging. We love, I'm going to Starburbs tomorrow to get my free chicken, Everybody loves free, but there's no such thing as free chicken or free parking or free charging. There is a cost, and $150,000 is a lot of money. I am in support of the taxpayer subsidized parking program over the holidays for this year, but we are in tenuous financial consideration right now. So I certainly would not support anything over this holiday season. But again, I would support the 4 weeks for this year.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I do support, as I have in the past, the 4 weeks. I think it's important that it starts when it starts for several reasons. It is like the big kickoff. I've been hearing a lot of news just this week about the encouragement of holiday shoppers to get out early this year. And a lot of that is related to online ordering because of supply chains and delivery potential, backlogs. They have solved some of the supply chain gaps that they had. So now, this was this morning on the news, there's a bit of a glut of certain kinds of items, and they'll be really putting those in deep discount very early in the season. So just a kind of a little holiday shopping tip. I happened to catch Jesse Accomondo's online Facebook message today and encouraging people to think about early shopping local only. I will happily recommit to shopping local only for the holidays. I enjoy it. It makes me feel really good. And I encourage everyone to consider it. It really will add to the joy of the season. And I do think, to my colleague, Councilmember Massey, speaking to the intangibles of a program like this, I mean, we spend money at the holidays on all kinds of things, including decorations. This is in the same category as that. I think there's tangible benefit as well for those who are really attracted to things like online parking. I would rather see us get more creative with parking prices at different times of the year in order to help offset maybe the dig that this might take. I think it's worth rearranging those balances in order to fund one of the biggest we're one of the biggest go-to places in the region for the holidays. We are continuing to press the spirit of growing family placemaking. This is a huge opportunity to build upon those growing trends by making sure that Hermosa is offering all of the activities and the hospitality and drawing that in, because that's what generates the trends that become habits, that become the new and improved version of quality visitors year round. And I know that's partly what could be in the mix here as well. So and I agree, it's bit of inflation pressing on everybody's shoulders this year, and so make it count and get out early, come out in town, be together. And I think that's the last of it. I'm happy to support it. I do agree with Mayor Pro Tem on the 2 or 3 year for the specific reason that you stated. I'd rather have it as a flexible piece. I don't know that it's been hard at all to pass this item. Usually doesn't take much time, just in case we need it to be flexible. And I would certainly trust staff with advising us on that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Campbell. I am supportive of this program. I love this program. It's a lot of fun. I do agree with Mayor Pro Tem and Councilwoman Campbell. I've been watching a lot of the debates and we get accused of financially wasting money. So I'd love to see some council members come up in the next go around and if we go into a major recession, decide what they want to do with this project moving forward. So I'm supportive of it for 4 weeks for 1 year and we'll go from there. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion.
Sure.
I'll move that we approve a holiday-free parking program for 4 weeks between the dates of November 25th to December 25th at citywide commercial zone silver post meters.
I'll gladly second that. Motion by Councilwoman Armato, second by myself. And just a note to a member of the audience, if we could try to get some real good data for this year, which I know that you'll do a great job of encouraging your businesses. It seems like that will help us make decisions in the future as well. Any comments?
Yeah, just a clarification. It's November 25th to December 25th is the motion? Okay. And I would just say that the data is not going to be compared to this. You need multiple years of data with different weeks in order to, if you wanted to measure the bottom line impact on it. So I'm not sure you would have to, it'll have to take some more thought in terms of how you measure the benefit of the program. But I'm certain staff is in our chamber is creative enough to talk about how they want to do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any last comments? Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Armato,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Massey,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson,
Aye.
Mayor Detoy.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have item B, report regarding policy, safety, and health considerations related to the cannabis industry sponsored initiative Measure M on the November 8, 2022 general municipal election ballot.
Mr. Mayor, we will have Deputy City Manager Angela Crespi provide this report.
Thank you, Madam City Manager. Madam City Clerk, if you could cue the PowerPoint on this one as well. Thank you. And again, this one is a report regarding the policy, safety, and health considerations related to the cannabis industry sponsored initiative, now identified as Measure M on the November 8th, 2022 general municipal election ballot. At its May 24th meeting, City Council directed staff to prepare this report for educational purposes, covering the 3 major consideration areas of policy, safety, and health, specifically related to the Measure M initiative. This is an informational report focused on Measure M itself and the specific provisions included in Measure M. I do want to let people know that it is not a report on medicinal sales, cultivation, distribution, or any other issues related to the legal adult use of cannabis products. So in the major 3 areas, I'll just go over some of the most salient items that are included in the informational report. In terms of policy considerations, Measure M limits the city's ability to address impacts. It provides a one-size-fits-all policy. The provisions are tailored specifically to benefit a few cannabis industry businesses. The provisions contained in the measure are almost identical to the incentives on the ballots in other South Bay cities. And if enacted, it would limit the city council and the city staff's ability to effectively address any community impacts without going back to the ballot. Also, under policy considerations, Measure M would establish new business licensing system just for cannabis retailers. These licenses would need to be issued for indefinite terms. They would not require conditional use permits as we require with other businesses. Also provides a very prescriptive and discriminatory selection process that is placed on our city manager and does not provide any method for appeal of those decisions, which is unusual to business licensing processes. Measure M raises operational and enforcement concerns for the city. The 2 retail locations would be authorized by right in the C3 general commercial and specific plan area 7 zones, subject to the prescribed buffering that's outlined in the measure. It does not include any local control of the operating hours and instead defaults to the state current state laws of 6 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. The prescribed operational requirements that are included in the Measure M language place a significant enforcement responsibility on the city without providing tools or financial support for those enforcement responsibilities. And simply put, the current staffing cannot assume the additional workload created by Measure M without impacting service levels. In terms of public safety considerations, again, we would have increased enforcement responsibilities in both the code enforcement division and the police department. These type of uses have high pedestrian and vehicular traffic. And because the provisions of Measure M preclude on-site consumption, it is likely that nearby consumption would be experienced and reported by properties and individuals around these businesses. Because they're cash-based businesses with a highly desirable and valuable product, it also creates additional enforcement responsibilities. And the city would be looked upon to enforce illicit businesses should they arise. Basically, with Measure M, the main issue is that without any local control, due to it being an initiative provision and unable to be modified by the city, any increase in the calls would drain city staffing resources and reduce our ability to maintain the current public safety throughout the community. I know that Chief LeBaron shared some issues earlier in his report, and these would likely be exacerbated by Measure M. In terms of health considerations, cannabis retail establishments would be highly visible to youth. The locations prescribed in the measure are on Pacific Coast Highway and Artesia, located around safe routes to school, and also on the route to Maricosta High School. Unlike the alcohol, ABC, alcohol beverage control, the California Department of Cannabis Control does not have a shoulder tap program, which basically does undercover enforcement efforts to make sure that those under 21 are not asking others to go into the businesses and procure the products for them. So in terms of the California Cannabis Control, it does not have that program, and our local police department would not be able to create their own program at this time. In terms of election results, if the measure is rejected, residents may continue to legally order cannabis products without limitation or restriction. If it were to be enacted by the voters, Measure M would become the prevailing city policy. It would repeal the existing ban on cannabis retail storefront operations in the city. It would require the subjective issuance of 2 retail cannabis business licenses of indefinite terms. And it would repeal the city's cannabis delivery ordinance by limiting delivery to the 2 retailers who set up storefronts on Measure M. And on that final item, just do want to caution that it may be likely that the businesses who would benefit from the certain provisions of Measure M may not be interested in providing cannabis delivery. And if that's the case, then it could essentially eliminate delivery of cannabis in town completely. So with that, that concludes the staff presentation. And because the report is more lengthy and has more details, we do invite voters to read the full report and make sure that they carefully weigh the merits of Measure M and determine whether or not this ordinance represents responsible local policy for Hermosa Beach. And we're available for any questions.
Thank you, Angela, for that report and also the wonderful 56-page report attached to the agenda. It's nice reading for anyone who's not watching the Dodger game right now. So I'll look to my colleagues for any questions, and just a quick reminder that our council's action on Measure M, can we talk about that from the dais, Mr. City Attorney? That we have opposed the measure for anyone listening unanimously. So any other questions for staff on this report before we open up for public comment?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you for that presentation, Angela. Is the idea that we're going to be able to put this information out a little more piecemeal for residents, maybe on social media?
Yes, we will incorporate this in our educational materials.
Are we going to be like with just smaller bits of information? Yeah.
How many pages did you say? Ma'am?
56 or
56? Not the 56 pages. That'll be available certainly on our website, of course, but the small pieces of it we can include in our social media posts.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Madam City Clerk.
Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and this is a time for public comment on this item only. Seeing nobody other than our chief in the chambers, we will move over to virtual public comment. And Matt McCoy, your virtual hand is raised. Your 3 minutes will begin once you're unmuted.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Hello again, Mayor DeToy, City Council staff, Matt McCool, City Council candidate. I was going ahead and call in on this. Just want to let you know, I said this at the City Council candidate debate. This is an absolute non-issue. I have predicted for many years, many I told you so moments. I'm going to go 80-75 on this. No on M. It's not even going to be an issue. What I would love to hear, and what I loved having Hanny Fangari on the City Council, he was big on full disclosure. How many of the City Council candidate members up there have actually met with Elliot Lewis? Let's hear about this. Let's hear about what's going on. But this is not going to pass. It's not even close. The biggest issue, the biggest myth that has gone on with this is that the city of Hermosa Beach, the residents of Hermosa Beach voted in favor of cannabis, of marijuana. That is absolutely the biggest lie of all time. What they voted for was the decriminalization of marijuana. Nobody voted for the retail sale of marijuana, cannabis in the city of Hermosa Beach. Stop confusing the two. This is the biggest lie ever. Guarantee this. This is going to be like oil. It's not even close. Stop getting upset. Is it going to be 75 or 80%? Somewhere within the window. I'm going to call this so I can call back later and say, I told you so. Thank you for your time.
Seeing no other hands raised, one last call for public comment on item 14B. No one is in chambers. If you're joining us virtually, mouse down on the bottom of your screen and raise your virtual hand. Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues for comments, deliberation, or a motion. Councilwoman Campbell.
Yeah, I'll just want to accentuate that this measure is less about whether or not a person would support the retail sale of cannabis in our city, whether or not you support it. The information is extremely important about the level of control that the city would have if this measure were to pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to comment that I think this informational document is incredible. I think we can all, in addition to the city posting, get this information out. I think the city's a little limited on how they can share the news. We're not. I think social media, we can have a real reach, and it's easy and free to do that. So I encourage us all of us up here and all of us in the community to take snippets of this information that you want to use and put it out there. And with that, I'm happy to make a motion.
I'll look to Mr. City Attorney. I close public comment. I do see one other hand up. if I missed public comment, is there any objection if I reopen public comment? You good with that? We could just reopen public comment for that one speaker.
Yes, so we do have one virtual public hand raised. Carolyn Petty, your 3 minutes will begin once you're unmuted.
Thank you. I just want to check and make sure you can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, great. Look, I really appreciate it. Sorry, I couldn't raise my hand fast enough, and I didn't think you were getting to this until after 9, so I can't believe it. Just real quick, maybe I missed something in the presentation, but SB 1086 overrides city's authority over delivery and forces cannabis delivery across all municipalities in California. So I don't know if I didn't see what she was saying, but it doesn't matter what this initiative says if once SB 1086 is, I think it's already been signed into law. So I just thought it was really important that everybody, I just didn't think that she addressed it properly in the staff report. And that's the only thing I wanted to point out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I actually see another hand shot up.
Yeah, John, your 3 minutes will begin once you're unmuted.
Mr. Rouse, your hand is up. You're unmuted. If you can unmute on your side, you can begin speaking.
And Tony Higgins, your virtual hand is raised and your 3 minutes may begin once you're unmuted.
Yeah, I may as well join the party, but listen, what I want to understand, or what bothers me, is that the city knew that a large percentage of the population in Hermosa, I don't know if it's 50% or 40% or 60%, don't object to being able to buy pot. What they object to is having it in our community. And that bothers me, because that's just like saying we're gonna, shift the problem to somebody else's kids. What bothers me is that if there was a chance that, excuse me, Measure M would pass, why didn't the city put up a counter proposal with the controls that they needed? Because from what I understand, if Measure M does pass, however far-fetched that may be, then for the existing businesses, there would be nothing you could do short of taxing them out of existence to control them. I think the candidate Seaman mentioned that they wouldn't be subject to conditional use permits, and you couldn't go back retroactively and apply a conditional usage permit. So given all that, why did we miss the opportunity not to put up a counter proposal and give the residents, and this is the theme here, don't take the decision out of the hands of the residents. We're not idiots. We can look at a common sense measure and an industry measure and make a decision. I realize it's too late for that now, but it's that mentality that you have to make the decisions for us because we're too stupid to pick the right measure that bothers me. And I wish going forward, you would take that into consideration. Thank you.
All right, one final call for public comment on this item. Mouse down, raise the virtual hand. Item 14B. No one's in chamber. I do see John Rouse's hound is back up. You can unmute yourself, sir. Your hand is back down. All right, seeing no other hands raised, we will close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues a final time. Councilmember Massey.
All right, Mr. Bear, the perils of reopening public comment. SB 1186 prohibits cities from prohibiting delivery of medicinal cannabis to registered medicinal patients. It's not for recreational cannabis. It has been signed by the governor, so that will become state law. What the city has done is eliminate the prohibition municipally on the delivery of recreational cannabis products into the city. At the risk of putting light on this issue, or making light of some aspect of this issue, I think we had a city council candidate in his comments say for the third time tonight that something related to this issue was the biggest lie ever. So I'm not sure if he's got Donald Trump's speechwriter or if which of the biggest lies ever is actually the biggest lie, but nonetheless, some of the information is just almost comical here. Delivery of recreational cannabis products into the city is allowed. What we have done consistently over 4 different decisions, I called it 3 before, but it's actually 4 because one of the things we did that I'd left out was put a tax measure for cannabis on the ballot in the event that Measure M passes, is follow to a T the recommendations of our Citizens Advisory Group, where the issues related to Measure M and the provision of recreational cannabis in the city were fully vetted by a balanced stakeholder group, and recommendations were made to the city council. And we followed them to a T in all 4 respects, in terms of our position on Measure M, in terms of our position on the tax measure, and so on and so forth. So I want to just point out a couple of things. Access is something we have supported as a matter of city policy through the allowance of delivery into the city. Cities that want to allow storefront retail of cannabis products in their city surround Hermosa Beach, and they're more than welcome, and that's their prerogative to do that. And that allows access for our residents in addition to the delivery of recreational cannabis. What we have done consistent with the recommendations of our Citizens Advisory Group is to try to strike a balance where people have access to storefront retail at cities outside Hermosa Beach and access to delivery of retail recreational cannabis into the city of Hermosa Beach. But we don't have any kind of storefront retail, either delivery only operations or walk-up operations or walk-up and delivery operations. What I think we have all concluded and is reflected in our votes and is reflected in the input of the Citizens Advisory Group is that the industry initiative that is Measure M is not the right way to bring retail cannabis into the city of Hermosa Beach, if there ever is a right way beyond allowing delivery into the city of Hermosa Beach. There are a number of problems with it. They were gone over in some detail, not only in the Citizens Advisory Group meetings, which are available, I believe, on our city YouTube channel and linked through our city website for anybody to see, but also in the presentation from the Deputy City Manager. I just want to add one thing. One of the things we've talked about is that Measure M is an industry initiative. And for anybody who read, I believe it was the Beach Reporter this past week, there was an extensive interview with the sponsor of Measure M. And he admitted in that article that there are provisions in the industry initiative that is Measure M that benefit his business. So for all the other reasons, and that reason specifically, Measure M is not the right way to bring recreational cannabis retail into the city of Hermosa Beach. If there is a decision by the voters at some point in time, or a decision by the city council at some point in time, that's what the community wants, which is not clear based on the input from the Citizens Advisory Group. But for a whole host of reasons, including the fact that the industry initiative tilts the scales in favor of a certain subset of cannabis businesses who we may or may not want to be the ones to provide retail cannabis in the city. Measure M is a bad bill, and I think all of us here on the city council certainly endorse a vote against Measure M on the ballot. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilwoman Armato,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Campbell. Any last comments? Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Armato,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Massey,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson,
Aye.
Mayor Detoy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have item C. 2 appointments to Public Works Commission. If I may. So earlier today at your 4 o'clock special meeting, the City Council conducted interviews for 2 Public Works Commission vacancies. Of the 5 applicants that submitted, 1 applicant did withdraw, and we had 4 remaining applicants that were interviewed: Stephen Campbell, Kathy Dunbobin, Tor Lakevold, and Kimberly Noble. Staff recommends at this time that City Council appoint 2 members to the Public Works Commission for 4-year terms ending October 31, 2026, using our small hand in or write-in ballots. At this time, we will be distributing these. You may, please. And we do ask that you put your name or your initials at the top right. And I will need to read out loud your votes. But some background, this commission is codified in Municipal Code Section 2.80 and consists of 5 members appointed by the City Council for staggered 4-year terms. The key duties of the Public Works Commission are to review and make a recommendation to the City Council on all capital improvement program projects, assist with developing and updating design guidelines for public improvements, and other matters referred to the Commission by the City Council as outlined in Hermosa Beach Municipal Code Section 2.80. So at this time, I'm available for any questions. And please, if you could, whenever you would like, you can make 2 selections, and I can collect those and read them out loud when it is time.
All right, the note cards are being handed down. It's open for public comment, though.
Yes, we may open public comment at this time, unless you would like to ask any questions before we do that.
I just want to start off and say thank you to all the candidates. It was a wonderful hour of conversation and questions and answers, and to steal all the lines that my colleagues have used, I wish we could choose all 4 of you because they're great candidates across the board. No questions for staff. Open up for public comment, please.
We do have 1 virtual public hand raise. Matt McCool, your 3 minutes will begin once you're unmuted.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Hello, City Council. Matt McCool once again. You know, this is a great experience. Mayor Toy, I remember when I first met you, and I was very integral as far as getting you appointed to the Emergency Preparedness Advisory Commissioner as a fellow El Camino Fire Academy grads. But as far as tonight, I want to go ahead as far as your consideration of who's going to be appointed to this commission. After I'm elected to the City Council, I just want to go ahead and say one thing. I am going to go ahead and put together a special commission of 2 members of the Park and Recs Commission and 2 members of the Public Works Commission, which is important, to do an independent investigation as to why these zero net energy bathrooms project went from a ridiculous $1 million to 2.54 million. So I want to go ahead as far as you considering candidates, who are these, maybe these people that might be on that subcommittee, because we need to address taxpayer dollars that was wasted on this project. This needs to be investigated. This will be my #1 priority once I'm elected to the city council, is have this investigated by a subcommittee of these 2 members from each of the commissions. That's my time. That's my piece. Thank you.
One last call for public comment on 2 appointments to the Public Works Commission. Mouse down the bottom of your screen and raise your virtual hand. Seeing none, I will close public comments. Any other comments or deliberation, or shall we tabulate the votes? Yes. Councilwoman Campbell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make a quick comment and echo what you said. I thought it was a great list of candidates. And I know that one thing I care about, having served on the council, is really trying to encourage people to get involved. You learn so much. It's so valuable to the city to have, many of the individual talented residents that we have come in and serve a time on one of these commissions, or even on the city council, or even the school board. So I would be equally happy with anyone we spoke with tonight serving. So thank you for being here. And I wish the new commission the best of luck. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Massey.
2 quick things, just a housekeeping item and then a comment along the lines of what you and Councilmember Campbell have made. I think we may have gotten just slightly out of order in terms of distributing the ballot sheets before public comment. So what I would do is ask if any council member wants to change their vote, give them the opportunity to do that. I don't, but I want to make sure that nobody else does as well, to make sure that we have this done in proper order. Anyway, we've said it before. There are so many talented people in this community. These are amongst the toughest decisions we make, because we wish that we could select everybody. And for the folks who don't get selected, know that these appointments are always very close questions. They're very difficult decisions to make. And the folks who are interested in serving in the community should continue to stay engaged, either through our nonprofit groups or when opportunities arise in the city. And it may take multiple applications, just like sometimes it takes people multiple runs to get elected to the council, or for folks to get hired onto city staff. But keep at it, because we appreciate your interest. We appreciate your dedication and your talent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would any council member like to revisit their vote after any questions for staff or the public comment? All right. Any other questions or comments? Madam City Clerk.
I do apologize for jumping the gun. I realized I distributed these a little too quickly. So I will start in the sequence that I typically call for a vote. Councilmember Stacy Armato. I have Kathy Dunbobbin and Tor Legwold, and confirming with you that those are indeed your votes. Yes. Next, we have Councilmember Mary Campbell, Tor Legwold, and Kimberly Noble, confirming those are your votes. Next, we have Councilmember Massey, confirming Tor Legwold and Kimberly Noble.
No. You have the wrong sheet, I think.
Sorry, confirming Kathy Dunbobbin and Kimberly Noble.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you. And I'm having my deputy triple check. Next, we have Mayor Pro Tem Jackson, confirming Kathy Dunbobbin and Tor Legwold. And last but not least, we have Mayor DeToy, confirming Kathy Dunbobbin and Kimberly Noble. Okay. And I will do one final tally myself.
Talking about close votes. I don't know how my unofficial tally is working. It is because one person.
So we do have a runoff. And yes,
You have an appointee and then a runoff for the second appointee, right?
that's correct. So we do have Kathy Dunbobin, who has 4 votes. And next we have Tor Lakewold with 3 votes and Kimberly Noble with 3 votes. So at this time, if the council would like to entertain a vote, or I can redistribute these and you can write in the back of the card, which way you prefer.
Would you like a secret ballot or would you just like to do a voice vote?
It's not a secret ballot.
Well,
just
it's
a written
secret
ballot.
because it's a suspenseful ballot.
It's more suspenseful, right? But it's not secret.
All right. We'll just do a voice vote if we want to just remind everyone's between Tor and Kimberly Noble,
Okay,
correct?
yes. So I will begin with council member Armato, Tor Lakevold, or Kimberly Noble. Is that how we would do it, city attorney, or should we do a motion?
No,
I can just
read the,
two names?
yeah.
Okay,
Right, and each person can just state the name of the candidate that they wish to vote for.
okay. So Councilmember Armato, Tor Lakevold, or Kimberly Noble.
Both would serve our city well, but my vote is with Tor Lakevold. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell, Tor Lakevold, Kimberly Noble.
Tor Evil.
Councilmember Massey, Tor Lakevold, Kimberly Noble.
Kimberly Noble.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson, Tor Lakevold, or Kimberly Noble.
Or Lakewold.
And Mayor Detoy, Tor Lakevold, or Kimberly Noble.
Kimberly Noble.
Okay. So we do have a split vote. So we have 3 votes for Tor Lakevold and 2 votes for Kimberly Noble. So it seems as though we have our 2 new commissioners, Kathy Dunbobin and Tor Lakevold.
Congratulations to Kathy Dunbabin and Tor Lakevold. We're excited for your contributions for the next 4 years and your contributions in past to the city, specifically for Commissioner Dunbabin, or Vice Chair Dunbabin, I should say. Do we need a motion to accept those?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
great, and we can hopefully have a unanimous vote.
Perfect. Their motion to accept or to appoint Kathy Dunbabin and Thor Legvolt.
I'll move that we appoint Kathy Dunbabin and Tor, Legvold, for a 4-year term on our Public Works Commission.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem, the initial motion by Councilman Armato. Do you want a clarification on the dates or
No. I just-
Comments?
another clarification.
Oh my God.
So I'm not sure if this is the process we've used in the past, Mr. City Attorney, because if those are not our 2 first choices, we're naturally in a position to vote no on this item, which, I mean, I recognize that that's the will of the council. So on one sense, if it's just a ministerial vote, then obviously the vote is yes. But if it's a substantive vote, then
I think you can dispense with the vote. You've already submitted your ballots and selected Kathy Dunbabin in the first round. And the second round was done by voice vote. And you selected, I didn't quite catch.
Tor.
So it's pretty much done at this point. So I don't think you need to vote any further.
Okay, I retract my motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
okay, so no motion. We're done with this item. If there's any last comments, speak now. I know I said 8:45 earlier. I'm sorry. That'll bring us to future agenda items. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking for some support from my colleagues to place an item on the agenda to revisit and reconsider the percentage for our
Upton.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, for opting in on the renewable energy purchase.
I will,
100% renewable energy.
I'll support your motion there, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a timeline or whenever city staff?
If I can just check with the city attorney. So since it is to revisit, should we just bring back the original staff report or summarize that?
Yeah, I mean, the original staff report from their last meeting contains a very robust discussion of the issue. There's not really much more to provide to the council in the way of a staff report. And so it would just be a question of, when you want to bring it back to reconsider the default percentage.
As soon as we can agendize that.
So we can do that at the next council meeting.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other comments on our future agenda items? All right. That will bring us to adjournment. The next regular meeting will be October 25th with closed session at 5 p.m. followed by open session at 6 p.m. We adjourned tonight's meeting at 9:19 p.m. in memory of Ron Pizer. Ron passed away on April 29th, a few weeks short of his 89th birthday. He was born in Los Angeles into a creative and entrepreneurial family. His paternal great-grandmother, Mary Ann Magnin, founded the I. Magnin department store chain. He grew up in a loving but structured setting, which he was always rebelling against, his family said. He secretly ordered an ant farm and bought a motorcycle. As an adult, he rediscovered his youthful love of magic years and became a lifelong member of the Magic Castle. After graduating from USC with a degree in electrical engineering and an MBA, he served as a Navy officer on the USS Rogers in the South Pacific. The engineering company he founded was known as an outlier in the straight-laced electronic industry. He focused on hiring capable people that he liked. Ron served on the Hermosa Beach Planning Commission for almost 20 years. He was a founding member of the Hermosa Beach Fine Arts Group. He will be greatly missed by the community. Ron is survived by his wife, Tony, children, Lauren, Tommy, and Larry, and many grandchildren, nieces, extended family, and friends. In lieu of flowers, the family asked for donations in his memory to the Sierra Club, UNICEF, or an animal charity of your choice. So tonight we adjourn our meeting in honor of Ron Pizer. Thank you and good night.